Welcome to part 14 of What If Camy Sends Naruto Back in Time to Fix His Mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always, link to the fanfiction is in the description. A megacore, Akatsuki Tower. A swirl tore through the still air in the tallest tower of a megacore, and the man in the orange mask appeared with a murderous aura hovering over his body. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan glared around the room at the surviving members of the Akatsuki. A full recall had been ordered and the organization was in shambles after the last 2 weeks of activity. Looking around, Madara, Tobi, Obito saw that only Kakuzu, Kisame, Zetsu, Pain and Konan remain of the organization. Obito growled lowly through his mask and let his aura flare to display his displeasure with the current events. Report, he bellowed. He no longer felt like using the idiot Tobi mask and he was going to take control of his organization. Pain, acting through Yahiko's body, looked around impassively, ignoring Madara's rage before answering. Sasori and Nadare are dead at the hands of the Ikibi Jinchuriki and the 4th cage. We no longer have access to spies in Suna, so we do not know the amount of damage caused. Pain paused here before continuing. A week ago, Kisame was nearly killed before Zetsu rescued him from the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. It appears Hizashi died to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki in his attempt to save Kisame. Kisame growled menacingly before shouting, "Don't forget what that bastard did to Samahata." Pain cocked his head at the unusual outburst and display of emotion. Explain. Kisami's growl faded, and he sounded sad. The brat did something to Samahata. He put his hand on it and let it absorb his chakra. Now, the whole damn sword is just a heavy piece of stone. Black Zetsu spoke up here, that is the effect of rampant nature energy. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki is the most prolific sage since the Sage of Six Paths. If Samahata absorbed his chakra, then it wouldn't be able to handle it. Kisame groaned in sorrow and rage. Fuck. Obito retook control of the meeting. What proof do we have that Hizashi is dead and hasn't betrayed us? White Zetsu spoke this time. The mountain that was destroyed in his fight against the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and the ring finger left in one of many piles of blood. Obito growled, "Shit. At least we got the ring back." Pain, how do you plan to deal with the Kyuubi? You are now the only member remaining that can stand up to the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Pain, through Yahiko's body, shook his head negatively. No, I can no longer stand up to the boy. We will need to assault with everyone and catch him off guard if we wish to capture him. Obito could no longer stand the setbacks. He was so close to accomplishing his mission and achieving his dream. All he wanted was to spend life in his eternal genjutsu paradise with Rin. The Senju boy was never supposed to be this strong and his plans would have to change. Madara would be furious if he were resurrected below full strength, and he knew that he couldn't take on Pain yet. He needed Pain weakened further if his betrayal were to work. What should we do moving forward? We have Iwa and Aim at our disposal. Kakuzu said, before adding, and if you tell me to fight the Senju brat then I am out. He took 2 of my hearts in one move. Kisame nearly barked, if sharks could bark, at Kakuzu's cowardice. Coward. Kakuzu shrugged, look, Sharky, I joined because it was a profitable venture. One boy just changed that. Until we find a way to deal with the Senju boy, we will continue losing. What about all of us attacking Konoha? Kisame offered. Obito considered it, but Pain shut the idea down. We have been unable to penetrate their defenses. If Suna is that well defended, then Konoha will be worse. Zetsu is unable to enter the forests of Fire Country. Konan cannot fly overhead due to the barriers. Madara's special technique is nullified in most of the city. So, we lure him out, Obito offered. Konan cocked her head. How? Obito turned his orange mask toward Konan. Let me think about that for a while. Preparations will need to be made. For now, we need to seal the 3 tails. I was able to capture it under the noses of the Mizukage. Kakuzu looked between Obito and Pain. Is this guy in charge now? Obito remained silent and waited for Pain's answer. No, he is an agent of God. I trust his judgment in this. Let us lure the Kyuubi out of its lair. Leave us and prepare to seal the 3 tails. As the room cleared, Obito walked over to Pain and Konan. There was a tense silence that permeated the room. 2 powerful auras were flaring and clashing against one another as Konan watched on with a trickle of sweat running down the back of her neck. Her lips remained pursed, and he face emotionless as the conversation began. I trust you still believe in our mission, Pain. Obito said in a low tone. Yahiko's body looked condescendingly towards Obito. Yes, Obito, I believe in the mission. Tell me, how do you plan on dealing with this overwhelming force? Obito said, not even wincing anymore when Pain used his real name. It was a real shock when Conan and Pain had confronted him about that. He still didn't know how they discovered his identity, but he assumed it had something to do with the Rinnegan. He was still mad that he couldn't use those eyes himself yet. His injured body would never have been able to sustain Hashirama's cells and the Rinnegan. That was why this puppet was installed by Madara, but damn did it make things inconvenient. Pain replied in a steady monotone, care to elaborate? Obito growled at the obvious tone of condescension. Give me some time to think it out. The Zetsu army is ready. Iwa is almost ready. Aim is ready. The time approaches when we must take what we need by force. Pain, in Yahiko's body, raised an eyebrow in a gesture thick with condescension. That is your big idea. Throw the whole world into war when we only have 3 of the Biju. The Senju boy is enough to vanquish armies at this point. The only way to deal with him is quality and number. Conan backed Pain up, he is right. We must presume that the boy has unparalleled sensory capabilities in his sage mode. We cannot even count on the element of surprise anymore. Obito chuckled lowly, so, we put him in a position where he can't run away, and he must fight. You just gave me an idea. Later, Conan appeared in a collage of paper next to Nagato's real body. His condition was stable, but that didn't mean it was good. Nagato, must we still continue on this path? Nagato cast a weary gaze towards Conan. Conan, I do not trust my cousin with the mission of bringing peace to the ninja world yet. Conan hit Nagato with her most incredulous look, the boy has outplayed us at every turn. He has united 4 of the Great Five. What more must he do to make you believe? Nagato's weariness turned to anger, and he raised his voice, I have the eyes of God. The boy has shown nothing except the ability to deal with mortal men. Conan scoffed, you are no god, Nagato. You once understood that you were a man, a good man, that wanted to use his power to protect the people of our country. Nagato winced at the pained tone of his childhood friend. She was always by his side, always believed in him, always tethered him to reality. Conan, we cannot give up now. If he bests my paths, then I will start to believe. Conan looked skeptically at him, so, you basically want the kid to kill you before you believe in him. Nagato signed, weariness overtaking him once more. Yes, Conan, I have chosen my path. Conan stepped over to the body immobilized on the throne of sorts and put a hand on Nagato's shoulder, then, I guess I am with you to the end. Konoha, 1 week after attack on Suna. Shikamaru Nara winced as he rubbed his sore face once more. He had been dispatched on back-to-back troublesome missions and he was on the receiving end of the Nara women's frying pan no jutsu when he returned home. Who knew that Hikari had picked up so well on his mother's lessons? How did she even do that when she spent most of the last 3 years away from her? Flashback, 20 minutes ago. Shikamaru yawned as he left the Hokage Tower to return to his compound. He was tailed by Naruto, Tsunade, Temari, Ino and Samui, who were all having an animated conversation about how much they were going to miss Suna. As the group entered the gates to the Nara compound, a resounding clang rang out over the still air of the Nara lands. The Nara deer all turned their heads towards the origin of the sound, the Nara men all winced and the Nara women all smirked. However, it wasn't a Nara that was standing over Shikamaru, it was a pissed-off Senju woman with a tick mark on her left temple. Shikamaru Nara. What did I tell you would happen if you didn't take me on a date within a week of my return to Konoha? Hikari screamed with Yoshino Nara smirking proudly over her shoulder. Shikamaru grabbed his red face with an open palm and tried to rub out the pain left by the impromptu greeting from a frying pan. Don't be troublesome, Hikari, it is your brother's fault. Hikari shook her frying pan at Shikamaru and Yoshino pulled out her own and mirrored her. Don't give me that excuse, Shikamaru Nara. You had a full week before your mission to Oto. You then had a couple days in between that and your mission to Suna. Shikamaru winced and bowed his head. Look, Hick. Yoshino didn't let the excuse exit her troublesome son's mouth. She lashed out lightning fast with her frying pan and put a lump on the back of his head. No excuses. I swear to Camy and everything holy, Shikamaru Nara, if you lose this girl, I will wake you with my pan every remaining day of your miserable life. Shikamaru looked around for support and noticed that Naruto was smirking down at him while all of the women were glaring. He turned into a lazy position of prostration and put his forehead into the dirt. I apologize, Hikari. It wasn't my intention to delay our date. May I ask to take you out tomorrow? Hikari positioned her hands on her hips, with her right hand still holding a pan, and she humphed at Shikamaru before a sly grin flittered onto her face. You may pick me up at 5. End of flashback. How do those damned frying pans hurt after 30 minutes? Shikamaru groaned to Naruto over the shogi board. Naruto chuckled before moving his piece, because you messed with the wrong woman, that's how. And don't forget, you have 3 years of makeup dates, bro. Shikamaru groaned once more and smashed his head into the board, basically declaring he resigned. Why did I get involved with you troublesome Senju? All I wanted in life before you showed up was to have an average ninja career, marry an average woman, have 2 kids and die happy. Where did it all go wrong? A scowl drew the boys' attention to the door where they saw a feminine hand holding a frying pan, which made Shikamaru flinch backwards. They then heard a cacophony of girly giggles before the door to the kitchen closed completely. Naruto shook his head before he shrugged, meh, she is worth it, and you are better off for it. Shikamaru turned his head, which was still on the ground. I should have stayed far away from you troublesome blondes. Naruto laughed, that would have been boring. Then, you would have been a trash mob side character like everyone else from Iowa. Nothing wrong with being a side character, Ruto. Shika groaned. Naruto laughed and slapped him on the back and returned the words the old Shikamaru once said to him. Don't sell yourself short, brother. You are a good man with a brilliant mind and a lazy heart. Trust me, love, especially love like Hikari's, is what makes this life worth living. Shikamaru finally rose up from the ground with a small smile on his face. Yeah, I guess you're right. So, you are okay with me being with your sister, Shika. She is no longer a part of me. Yay, your sister. You approve. Naruto smirked. This would have been a very different conversation if I didn't. Naruto hopped to his feet and held out a hand to the lazy Nara. The two then joined Shikaku in the dining room, where they realized that they were totally outnumbered. Troublesome women. Old frenemies and last chances. The return to Konoha from the Suna and Oto sent ripples of rumors ripping through Konoha. There were mentions of the Senju clan, Naruto, the Uchiha clan, the death of Orochimaru and Task Force Anaconda flittering about the rumor mill like leaves in an autumn wind. It certainly made walking down the streets of Konoha interesting for Naruto and the rest of the Senju family. It wasn't bad, but it was annoying. Tsunade was sick of dealing with questions of confirmation from the villagers and apologies for her family's treatment. It made every errand run a menace that took thrice as long. It made every walk to the hospital agitating, and it didn't take long for Tsunade to curse Naruto for disabling Shunshin in the village. She walked into the hospital and down to the lower levels. She passed multiple squads of Anbu, passed through 3 barriers and finally went through advanced screening seals administered by Cat and Eagle. Heya, you two, any changes in our guests? Tsunade asked before sipping on her cup of coffee. Cat bowed before answering, they are up and about, but they are all miserable cunts. I swear, I would have rather talked to Yami in full Biju mode before I spend another minute dealing with the Uchiha boy. Eagle chuckled, the water kid is funny, a bit, like a lot, a bit, overconfident, but funny, nonetheless. Don't even waste your time on Gurren until your brat can remove the cursed seals. Tsunade grimaced, who would have thought that the snake pedophile could have such a devoted fangirl. Cat made a gagging sound behind her mask. Ew, Lady Tsunade. I didn't need that mental image. Tsunade belted out a laugh, alright you two, thank you. Have a nice day and don't be scared to mess with my brat when he gets here. Eagle shuffled nervously before turning to Cat. We don't have to mess with the kid, right? Cat shook her head, knowing exactly where Eagle was going with this. Nah, it doesn't work on him anyway. Let's just nod and say we did. Tsunade walked into the advanced cell block and put on the bracelet that exempted her from the chakra null zone. She went over the charts and medical data concerning the patients that had all been enjoying an extended medical exam. She hummed in interest as she made the connections of the resting biological effects of the new cursed seal. She then picked up Jugo's chart and her eyes widened slightly. She set the charts down after noting her thoughts that she needed to share with Naruto and her apprentices. She really missed Shizune at times like this, but she was happy for her surrogate daughter that was starting her new life with her family. She then nicked her thumb and slid it over the seal in front of a cell door. She looked at the boy that was restrained in leather cuffs that were seal reinforced on the bed. "Hey, brat, here to talk to you again," Tsunade chirped before sitting down and clicking on the recorder. Sasuke grunted, "HN." Tsunade tapped her pencil on her clipboard before sipping on her coffee. She continued to slurp extra loudly until Sasuke continued. "What do you want, tits?" Tsunade flipped the pencil in the air, sped to Sasuke, dope slapped him and sat back down in her seat and caught the pencil. "I am going to pass that one off as the effects of the cursed seal. Tell me, brat, do you know what that seal does to you?" "HN, it gives me power. I am powerful enough to eclipse my brother and that stupid brat of yours." Tsunade couldn't help herself, she broke out in full-blown laughter. She spilled her coffee, slapped her knee loudly and pointed at Sasuke. Sasuke growled, "Shut up, tits. If he didn't fight me with the other rookies, I would have destroyed him." Another flip of the pencil and dope slap later, Tsunade looked deadpanned at him. "Look, brat, it is so pathetic it doesn't deserve further commenting. Let me put this in perspective, little Uchiha, you were instantly bested by a single wood clone of his. According to reports, you were in your fancy little cursed seal stage 2. Cute, but you are no closer to touching the moon than you were to overpowering my boy." This made Sasuke growl and the cursed seal attempted to spread, but the chakra null zone kept it locked down. "What the fuck do you want?" Tsunade looked bored but addressed him, "I am trying to see if you are even worth saving. Tell me, Sasuke, would you rather be killed or have the cursed seal removed and go through rehab?" The straightforward tone of Tsunade made Sasuke gulp and for once his anger backed down and his pride gave way to reason. "I don't want to die. I want to best my brother and your son. He is for all intents and purposes my son." Tsunade filled in the term for him. Sasuke nodded weakly, "Yes, son, well, I choose option 2. Tsunade nodded and offered a small, genuine smile. "Good. Now, did you go to Oto willingly or did Orochimaru force you? Also, do you know anything about your drug treatments?" Sasuke's head fell and his hair shadowed his eyes. "No, I didn't go willingly. I woke up after the invasion in a cell. I don't know how long I was in there. I don't know what Kabuto did to me. I just know that it made me stronger." Tsunade offered a reassuring smile. "Well, we have Kabuto's notes on your treatment somewhere. We are still going through everything we took from Orochimaru. In time, I will know what they did, and I will help counter it." Sasuke grimaced, Do I have to get rid of the seal? It makes me stronger." Tsunade snapped her pencil and glared at Sasuke. "Look, brat, deal is your life or the seal. If you choose the seal, you die. I don't think you know what is in the seal, so let me fill you in. In that abomination there is a loyalty seal, a mood suppression seal, an anger enhancement seal, a bastardized senjutsu seal and a body modification component. The only, and I mean only, thing in that seal that makes you stronger is the senjutsu component." Tsunade held up her hand to halt Sasuke's interruption. "You don't have training in controlling senjutsu chakra and as I said, the seal bastardizes the whole process of absorbing natural energy. You can't use it to a quarter of its potential. But isn't senjutsu why Naruto is so strong?" Sasuke said weakly. Tsunade shook her head. "Look, brat, I am a sage too. Yes, it makes you stronger. Far stronger than any seal from the snake Pedo. Trust me, if you commit to fixing yourself and go through rehab, you can get plenty strong. You will have to find a new summoning contract thought. The snakes cancelled your contract for what you did though." Before Sasuke could shout and groan about that, Naruto, Itachi and Makoto walked into the room. Makoto instantly ran over and embraced Sasuke in a hug. Itachi stood over his mother and little brother while Naruto talked to Tsunade. "What's the damage, mama?" Tsunade gave Naruto Sasuke's medical chart, and he reviewed it for a while. After reviewing, he handed it back to Tsunade and stepped towards Sasuke. He tapped 2 seals on his bracelet, closed his eyes and clapped his hands and Sasuke gasped when Naruto flickered into golden sage mode. Sasuke was so stunned, he didn't resist when Naruto placed one glowing hand over his heart and the other on top of his head. Sasuke felt the energy flow through him, and he felt a momentary reprieve from the anger and hatred that had boiled through him for the past 3 years. After a couple minutes, Naruto's eyes opened, and he looked down at Sasuke. Alright, good news or bad news first? Makoto squeezed Sasuke's hand and Sasuke answered, bad news first. Naruto sighed, look, removing the cursed seal is going to lay you out for a while. I am guessing you used it every day and the second stage embedded it deep in your chakra circulatory system. Not only will it hurt like a bitch, but you won't be able to use chakra for 3 or 4 months. To make matters worse, the seal contains a piece of Orochimaru's soul. Not a particularly big issue, but there is a chance it will rebel when I try to remove it. Makoto gasped and Itachi put a comforting hand on her shoulder before speaking. I presume you have a way to counter it. Naruto cocked an eyebrow at Itachi, yeah, I do. Kurama offered to devour it. Now that I think about it, I will actually do that before removing the seal itself. Sasuke finally recovered from the shock of Naruto's sage mode. How did you get that strong? What was that chakra? Naruto sighed, it was always about power with Sasuke. In this life or the last, it never changed. Look, Sasuke, I made peace with myself and my past on top of other advantages I have. Makoto squeezed Sasuke's hand once more, when can we do this? Naruto looked to Tsunade and then Itachi. I want to do it right. Give me a week to develop a stabilizing seal to minimize the damage to your chakra network. Tsunade also needs time to identify the foreign enzyme and once she does that, she can neutralize it. Then, we will be ready. Itachi nodded, very well. What of the other prisoners? Tsunade answered here, we can try removing the cursed seals, but I don't know. They never showed us any loyalty. The Uzumaki girl is a given, but the crazy sage and the water boy are unlikely. Sasuke did something that nobody expected, he bowed to Naruto. Please, save them. I know they will come around. They were the only people I could consider friends in Oto. They each have bloodlines that you could use as well. Please. Naruto sighed, I kinda figured that. However, it is their crimes that give me pause. Sasuke scoffed before a pleading look wormed its way onto his face. Look, we were all in hiding for the last 3 years. I only fought against the failed experiments and missing ninja that got out of hand. Jugo is actually a pacifist unless he gets out of control and Suigetsu has been in a test tube the whole time. Karen just experimented on, well, yeah, she experimented on people. No excuses there, but they are not beyond saving. Makoto and Itachi were looking at Sasuke bug-eyed, but it was Naruto that summed up what everyone was thinking. Damn, Sasuke, that's the most I have ever heard you say. Ever. With the typical Sasuke. The tension fell, and Naruto and Tsunade left the Uchiha alone. The two of them worked through the week on their individual projects and got ready to remove cursed seals from each of their prisoners. Seemed like losing the Sound 4 made Orochimaru mark the others that weren't marked last time around. Not a particularly big issue, but it was a nuisance to deal with. Naruto had to work around the clock for the week to get things ready. It wasn't easy to tailor a seal to an individual's chakra network. Furthermore, what he didn't share with Sasuke was that the repeat use of the cursed seal practically merged his chakra network with that of the seal. If he didn't have GSM or the experience of pulling in Kokuo's and Chome's chakra, then it really would feel impossible. His girls kept him positive and Might Guy literally dragged him out of his study twice a day to participate in CrossFit. Guy had started to completely drop his mask around others when they were in private. Naruto was too distracted to notice this during this week, but it would make for a fun conversation later. Anyway, the blonde hero threw himself into his work and his driving principle was that he would leave the past where it lay and do his best to save the bastard this time around. Makoto, Shisui and the rookies were bombarding Camy with prayers for the success of Sasuke's operation. The goddess was proud of her chosen for truly moving past the past. It was much easier to say than do, after all. She viewed Naruto's actions and couldn't help the smile that graced her face. If her chosen could forgive his betrayer, then she would too. On a different note, Camy's realm had been positively glowing since Naruto's wedding. Everyone noticed but nobody said anything about it. Minato and Kushina exchanged knowing looks and Mito had dragged Kushina to a bar in Camy's realm to get the goss. Then, the normally tight-lipped Uzumaki woman let slip the information to Hashirama. Sadly, after that, rumors began spreading across Camy's realm to the point that the goddess could no longer miss it. Camy then isolated herself in her office and tried to discover what was going on and why she was feeling this way. To her own astonishment, she wasn't even denying the rumors or crushing them outright. That fact alone was more mind-blowing than the Big Bang she used to create her universe. Then, she couldn't stop the many comments that Kushina casually dropped throughout normal conversations. Man, I wonder where my Sochi's fascination with blondes came from. Minato-kun, don't our 3 daughters-in-law remind you of our boss? Kushi, I can't believe how beautiful the girls were in their dresses. They almost rivaled Kami-sama's own beauty. Camy then giggled at this thought because the red-hot-blooded habanero smacked Minato upside the head. It left Camy with a lot to think about. In her whole existence, she had never desired a partner. If she had, she simply would have created one. In her perfect memory, she had never been so fascinated with a human boy. Throughout the passage of time, she had never felt so many emotions. In all of her love for her creation, she had never let emotions penetrate her apathetic visage. In her heart, she had never craved the love of another. 8 days after the meeting in Sasuke's cell, it was go time. Itachi had everything set up and Sasuke was primed and ready on a table. Unfortunately, for the Emo Uchiha, his chakra circulatory system needed to be active for the procedure. Sadly, for the king of duck-butt haircuts, his cursed seal needed to be active for the procedure. Regrettably, for the Uchiha runt, this was really going to hurt. Okay, brat, take a deep breath and bite down on this. Tsunade said as she placed a mouthguard in Sasuke's mouth. Sasuke grunted through the thick plastic of the mouthguard. Naruto flickered into GSM and put 2 fingers on the cursed seal. Okay, Sasuke, I need you to activate the cursed seal. I have removed the evil sealing Fuin, so I need you to pull on that power. Sasuke closed his eyes and activated the familiar cursed seal. His skin turned dark gray as black curse markings spread around his body. His hand-like wings formed out of his back and the bluish-black X mark appeared across the bridge of his nose. The toxic chakra shocked Naruto's system and he was naturally repulsed by it. Naruto pushed through the discomfort, opened the channel to the seal and closed his eyes to speak with Kurama. Hey, Q, you sure you want to eat this crap? Kurama growled, I am not going to snack on it, Ruto. I am going to devour it. I might play with the snake a bit though. Hey, Q, could you tie him up and torture that piece of his soul for a bit? I think someone needs some closure before we snuff the snake fucker out of existence. Kurama raised an eyebrow before he slowly nodded his head. Very well, Naruto. I will do that for you. Remember, isolate whatever you bring in and do not let it integrate with your own chakra. Naruto nodded externally. I know, Q. Let's do this. Sasuke let Ara eat splitting scream before biting down hard on the mouthguard. His whole chakra circulatory system was aflame as Naruto's senjutsu chakra forced its way into every tenketsu. He then let out another roar as Tsunade plunged a syringe into the area of the seal that was releasing the enzyme from Jugo. Tears fell from his eyes as Tsunade pulled back on the plunger and a bloody, purplish liquid was pulled out of the seal. It hovered in the syringe and swirled about ominously. Makoto hands were covering her mouth and her eyes were shedding miniature waterfalls of silent tears as Itachi embraced her from behind. She wanted to be there for her son, but no mother ever wanted to see her child in such pain. Itachi grimaced at the pain scream of his little brother as the cursed markings began glowing golden as they swirled back towards the cursed seal. Shisui whistled in appreciation as he activated his Sharingan and was nearly blinded by the potent chakra. A bead of sweat began its descent from Naruto's hairline and trickled down his nose before it began its freefall onto the operating room floor. He had surrounded every bit of corrupted chakra with his own senjutsu chakra. It was like how soap surrounds an oil molecule to make it water-soluble. He applied that philosophy to his procedure and it took immaculate concentration and chakra control to do so. Finally, the hard and most disgusting part of the procedure was about to begin. Sasuke's eyes rolled to the back of his head and his screaming ceased as his body began seizing. Tsunade stepped in and began caring for the Uchiha boy as his eyes fell to the cursed seal. A golden ball of chakra nearly the size of a baseball was bulging at the base of Sasuke's neck. Through cracks of golden light, Tsunade could see poisonous purple and black chakra. She watched as Naruto guided the chakra ball out of the cursed seal and palmed it in his hand before he clasped his other hand over it. Within minutes, the ball of chakra was gone, and Naruto had collapsed to the floor of the surgical room in the lotus position. She could feel that his concentration hadn't slipped, and she could still sense the chakra disturbance in his system. She put her hand on his shoulder in support and pushed just a trickle of her warm, motherly chakra into his system to reassure him and let him know that she was there with him. In the mindscape, the sunny sky had black clouds forming in it. In a golden cage, Orochimaru's soul began taking form and it hissed in displeasure at its capture. The golden, slitted eyes opened and took in the intimidating form of the Kyuubi no Kitsune and the Senju boy standing in front of it looking condescendingly at him. "Hey there, sorry that I don't have any little boys for you in here. It won't be a long stay, but do try to survive until I can bring my special guest in." Naruto chirped. Orochimaru hissed in displeasure, "What have you done? Sasuke was to be my vessel." Kurama belted out a laugh, "Oh, please. Your backup plan was pitiful, and we could sense you from a mile away. Tsunade crushed your old body, but she told me that the fight was too easy, even for a weak and corrupt pedophile." Naruto ignored Orochimaru's hiss and walked up to the cage before looking down at the withered piece of Orochimaru's soul. "You know, Snake, your master plan wouldn't have worked anyways. The bastard is too stubborn to let you control him, no matter how many drugs you put in his system. Now, sit tight, I am going to get our special guest." A Naruto clone walked toward the Sarutobi compound and was allowed entry instantly. He walked through the quaint home and toward Hiruzen's study. He knocked on the door and heard the gentle, "Come in," after a couple moments. He walked in to see Hiruzen reading, Ika, make-out tactics in a chair on his balcony. "Ah, Naruto, my boy, what can this old man do for you?" Hiruzen asked with his classic, grandfatherly smile. Naruto offered a casual wave, "Hey there, old man." The clone focused on his master's orders before continuing the conversation. "I am here to talk and offer an olive branch." Hiruzen cocked an eyebrow, "Talk about what?" Naruto sighed and formed a wooden chair to sit down next to Hiruzen. "Well, old monkey, I want to share my past with you. I want you to at least understand why I did what I did and acted the way I acted. Camy said that you should be joining her soon enough, so she gave me permission to tell you." Hiruzen coughed out a cloud of smoke and slammed a fist on his chest to recompose himself. "Camy, are you serious?" Naruto chuckled before nodding. "Yup. Part of my meditation training at the sage's temple was realizing that the past needed to stay in the past. I don't have to forget it, I must learn from it, but I can no longer let it control the present." Hiruzen nodded sagely and let his pipe hang out the right corner of his mouth. "A wise lesson for a young man such as yourself." Naruto chuckled sheepishly, "Well, I do have 32 years of experience to pull off of. Not to mention the Shinobi Alliance and 2 world wars." Hiruzen's pipe clattered to the desk and his jaw hung limply on its hinges. His wide eyes burrowed into Naruto's and the clone simply nodded with a sad smile at Hiruzen. It took minutes for the third Hokage to recompose himself and he finally said, "Explain." Naruto closed his eyes and pulled in the natural energy around him. He used that energy to create a link to Hiruzen's damaged chakra network and Naruto began syncing with him. Hiruzen was overwhelmed by the link before he felt Naruto grab his hand in a comforting manner and he lowered the walls he had defending his mind. The clone pulled upon its creator's memories and used the connection offered by the Senjutsu chakra to share them with the old monkey. Hiruzen couldn't believe what was happening. The images flying through his mind were moving in a blur, but every emotion connected to the memories was felt vividly. Every now and then, the memories slowed down and allowed Hiruzen to properly focus on the events. Tears fell as Hiruzen watched memories of Naruto's previous childhood. Anger and resentment at himself welled in his heart before Naruto crushed those emotions for him. To allow him to focus on the memories. Hiruzen watched the many conversations in his office, and he watched his repeated abuse of the boy's trust. He felt every bit of pain, despair, anxiety and isolation that the previous child Naruto felt. He didn't know how long he was watching these memories, but he knew that they were real, and that time no longer mattered. He watched his death at Orochimaru's hands and the genuine pain that brought to Naruto. He then watched the highlights and lowlights of Naruto's fight against the Akatsuki, the death of his son at the hands of Hidan, the destruction of Konoha and fight against Pain, the betrayal of Danzo and the Fourth Great Shinobi War. He was inspired by Naruto's single-minded determination to protect as many of his precious people as he could. He was in awe at Naruto's ability to win over the Biju and fight against a goddess. His heart was wrenched from his chest as he processed the feelings of Naruto's betrayal by Sasuke, Konoha and the Toads. His mind almost fell to the despair of the raw emotions as Hiruzen witnessed the end of the previous timeline. The Naruto clone stopped there and broke the connection. Hiruzen's mind cleared to see an understanding smile on the clone's face. He wiped tears from his wrinkled face and clutched his fist over his heart as he was enraged by the actions of another version of himself. A gentle hand unclenched his fist and brought his attention to the brilliant azure blue eyes of Naruto. "Look, old man, I wanted to help you understand. When I was a kid, everything was still so raw. Everything was still so painful, and I didn't know how to process it. When Camy brought me back, she dropped me in the middle of my first mob beating. When you lied to me in your office that morning, well, I had to protect myself." Hiruzen lunged out of his chair and embraced Naruto. "No, my boy, it is I that must apologize. I can't believe it was that bad." Naruto rubbed Hiruzen's back. "The sins of the previous world are not yours to bear," he whispered in a caring tone. Hiruzen began sobbing into Naruto's shoulder as he felt the forgiveness in those words. Every action, every grudge, every gripe that he had with this boy finally made sense. It all made sense, and that understanding brought peace to Hiruzen's weary soul. "Thank you," he said in between sobs as he rested his head on Naruto's shoulder. "You're welcome, old man. Now, there is another piece of the past that you need to lay to rest today." Hiruzen lifted his head off of Naruto's shoulder and sat back in his chair. He wiped the tears and snot from his face and looked into Naruto's eyes, asking for an explanation. "Your student left a piece of himself in every cursed seal he gave out. I have isolated that piece of him, and I wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye." Hiruzen's head laid back over the top of the rocking chair. Naruto grabbed the pipe off the balcony and loaded a fresh batch of tobacco in it before handing it to Hiruzen. Hiruzen offered a weak smile and placed the pipe in between his lips and took a drag. "Can we relax here for a minute? I need to process this before I tackle anything new." An hour later, Naruto walked with Hiruzen into the lower levels of the hospital. The clone waved to Tsunade, Hinata, Ino and the Uchiha family before going to its original and phasing into him. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow at an exhausted-looking Naruto. "Sorry, old man, I had a lot to do today. Everything you talked about and felt with my clone was real," Naruto said wearily, which prompted Tsunade to put a caring hand on his shoulder. He turned to her. "I will be fine, mama. Just need to relax for a minute. The seal is getting unpleasant with all that corrupted chakra in there." Hiruzen demanded an explanation from Itachi and Tsunade. It was Itachi that spoke. "Naruto has removed the cursed seals from Sasuke, Gurren and Karen. It is an exhausting process and he had to take in all the corrupted natural energy to make sure Orochimaru didn't get away." Hiruzen's head snapped to Naruto. "Why did it all at once, my boy?" Naruto shrugged. "Just wanted to get this over with. Give me a bit to purify the chakra, then I will bring you into the seal." Hiruzen nodded and went to a comfortable waiting room with the group. He once again marveled at the feeling of Naruto's senjutsu chakra as he watched the boy sit motionless with his eyes closed. He watched on intrigued as the Kyuubi's cloak flared to life and he saw a flicker of purple that crackled along the golden cloak before it was extinguished. Naruto's golden, slitted eyes opened and met Hiruzen's. "All right, old man, I am ready for you," Naruto said, holding out his hand. Hiruzen sank into a lotus position next to Naruto and let the boy take his hand. Naruto guided his hand to the seal, and he was encompassed in the warm and powerful chakra of Kurama before his world went black. He reopened his eyes to see an expansive plain with a giant lake, a forest of giant redwood trees and one great tree that stood apart from the rest. He also saw the Kyuubi no Kitsune standing guard over a golden cage that was near a log cabin. He followed Naruto over to the cage and sat in a chair that the boy materialized for him. Kukuku, if it isn't sensei. Orochimaru's slippery voice slithered across the mindscape like a snake in the grass. Naruto clicked his fingers and a pipe materialized in Hiruzen's hand. The old man gave a look of gratitude toward Naruto before he reclined in the chair and addressed Orochimaru. Hello, my old student. A comfortable silence fell between the two as Hiruzen puffed his pipe and Naruto went to join Kurama by the lake in the mindscape. The Biju and his partner took a much-needed nap in the warm sun of mindscape, leaving the two in privacy. Why am I here, sensei? Orochimaru broke the comfortable silence with a gruff tone. Hiruzen enjoying the puff of smoke and appreciated the flavor of the imaginary tobacco. Naruto wanted to give us a chance to settle things before we go to the other world. Rest assured, my student, that I will not be far behind you. Orochimaru hissed in displeasure, it is that boy's fault. I had my immortality perfected, and I would have had the Sharingan if it weren't for him. Hiruzen chuckled and sucked on his pipe. Orochi, you were always so ambitious. It was my fault for not curbing your darker ambitions. For that, I am sorry. I don't need your apologies, Hiruzen. Orochimaru hissed. Maybe not, but I offer them willingly. I often thought about how I would make things right. How I would fight you, die alongside you and go to the afterlife with you to atone for my past mistakes. Do not waste this last chance at finding peace, my student. We are both destined for the pure world. We will both stand before our Maker and account for our actions. What nonsense are you spouting? There is nothing after this life except the void. I have raised many souls and they never remember what has happened after death. Orochimaru finished in a sneering tone of condescension. Hiruzen chuckled and shrugged, he, well, if you want to know what the pure world is like, you should have asked Naruto. Orochimaru cocked his head to the side in confusion like a snake, what do you mean? Hiruzen's eyes hardened, and he met Orochimaru's gaze. He just shared the memories with me today. In his previous life, the timeline ended. My inaction, your corruption and many other factors led to the end of the whole world. Not just the shinobi world, Orochimaru, the whole world. Lies. Orochimaru shouted, before his head turned to a giant big screen that showed the war, Naruto's death and his interaction with Camy. Orochimaru's mind went blank, and he remained in a state of stunned disbelief for many minutes as he watched the collage of memories. Hiruzen watched on in a state of sad and stunned reverie. You see, Orochi, we will all stand to account in the end. Sadly, I think that we will be given to Yami and the Shinigami for our sins. Orochimaru's pitiful resistance fell, and the snake's rage subsided and gave way to fear. I am not ready to die. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Hiruzen chuckled and blew out a couple rings of smoke. No, my student. This is exactly how it is supposed to be. Humans are not intended for the divine. Humans were not meant to live forever. Your ambition clouds your reason, and your denial makes you oblivious to reality. It is fine to fear death, my boy. That is why I am here. To let you know that it is okay to die. I will join you on the other side shortly. What are you babbling about, sensei? Orochimaru hissed. Hiruzen rose from his chair and bent over at the waist in apology. I am sorry, Orochimaru. I am sorry for failing to guide you down the right path. I am sorry for not saving you from your dark path. I am sorry for making you feel alone. Orochimaru recoiled from the genuine apology as if it were poison. His original impulse was to put down the old and pathetic man in front of him. However, maybe it was the influence of Naruto, but this finally broke through Orochimaru. The snake's condescending look finally fell from his face as if his snake soul shed its skin. Why, sensei? Why does my forgiveness mean so much to you? Hiruzen rose from his bow and locked a gentle gaze on Orochimaru's own. I never forgave myself for failing you. You were the start of my fall, and I was never able to move past it. You were a son to me, and I failed you. That is why. Then why did you throw me to Danzo like some piece of trash? Why did you choose Minato over me? Why? Orochimaru shouted desperately. Tears began trickling down Hiruzen's face. Because I was scared of my own failure. I saw you going down the wrong path and knew I wasn't strong enough to save you. Putting you under Danzo was one of my greatest regrets. After that, Minato was the only choice. Your will of fire was corrupted because I failed you, Orochi. Blame me. Orochimaru's soul screamed out in pain and frustration at the meek man in front of him. Stop. You are ruining the image of the sensei that I respect. This pitiful old fool you have become is pathetic. If you want my forgiveness, take it. I forgive you. My actions were my own. Hiruzen offered a weak smile to Orochimaru. Thank you. Calm before the storm. 2 months after Suna attack, Naruto was walking down Main Street in Konoha with the rookies after an extended morning training session. They were all upbeat and chatting animatedly. Evidently, Kiba got himself a girlfriend by bragging about being part of Task Force Anaconda. With his swollen pride, he was walking with his chest out and nose held up high in the air. I'm tellin' ya, Naruto, she is a beauty. Finally, things are turning around for this alpha. Kiba boasted. Naruto restrained the many snappy retorts that wanted to spill out of his mouth and settled with, yeah, I heard. Congrats, Kiba. So, what's her name? Anna. She is a civilian girl that just graduated from her apprenticeship. That's cool. What is she apprenticing in? Samui asked while latching onto one of Naruto's arms. Kiba struggled to keep his eyes up when talking to the busty beauty. Kiba snapped. His mouth closed and looked at head level. She is a tailor now. She is going to apply to Senju Comfort Wares. Naruto beamed a smile. Tell her to drop my name. I will get her in there. Thanks, Ruto. Kiba beamed and Akamaru backed him up with a bark. Ino ran ahead of the three while flying Arashir around, which made Samui smile and lean into Naruto. Then Temari flew Hashi by them in a chase for Arashir while making plain noises. The cute scene drew the attention of the villagers and brought smiles to everyone. Naruto noticed a wistful smile cross Hinata's face, and further back Sakura was also watching the adorable scene. The group was passing one of the cafes that was a local hangout spot, and many red books were seen in the hands of men and women. I am a lucky man. Naruto sighed out contentedly. Samui chuckled and got up on her toes to place a kiss on his cheek. Yes, you are my love. I can't believe your second book got published this widely already. Naruto scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Well, yeah. Jiraiya's publisher was so excited that he rushed the publication and paid for the teleporters. They are all sold out. Sakura ran up and made Naruto stop with a fierce look on her face. You are the author of Second Chance. Naruto nodded, which was a mistake due to every woman in the cafe now paying attention to him. Sakura squealed before taking his hands in hers. Could you please get me a copy of Purifying Light? Naruto noticed the attention now and he looked sheepish. What is the point of using a pseudonym if he just announces he is the author? He pulled Sakura in close, which made her blush furiously. Sakura, I really need you to be quiet. I use a pseudonym for a reason, and I can sense 97 women now paying rapt attention to our conversation. Please, be quiet and I will get you a signed copy when we are in private. Sakura nodded into his shoulder and slowly backed away before speaking loudly. Ah man, I thought you would be the author. Oh well. Naruto cocked an eyebrow and Samui giggled at the terrible acting. The group continued their jaunt to Ichiraku's restaurant and the conversation continued to flow. So, Sakura, have you and Kiba been in to see Sasuke yet? Sakura and Kiba looked down at the ground. They aren't letting us in yet. They say he is still going through extensive counseling, and he is on bed rest. I mean, we have tried, but yeah. He is locked down tight. Kiba added. Whimper, bark. Akamaru added, which earned a scratch behind the ears from Naruto. Happy moan, bark, bark, bark. Naruto laughed. Yeah, bud, I will come over later and see if Ranga or some of the other wolves want to play. Kiba smiled at this. Yeah, my mom is super happy with the training harnesses. Hana is now the training supervisor for the pups, and she can set and adjust the weights. Did she talk to you about the mating proposal? Samui looked with icy interest at Naruto. Care to explain, dear? You are not pimping yourself out again, are you? Naruto waved his hands in front of him as the commotion brought Ino and Temari back to the group with his boys. No. They want to try breeding one of their ninkin with a tempest wolf. Kiba, I will talk to your mom later. I have been talking to Rimuru about naming a tempest wolf of my own, but you know how pack mentality is. Kiba nodded in understanding. Yeah, man, I do. They would have a family here though. As the group sat down in a booth at Ichiraku's, Naruto unsealed a copy of his second book, signed it and handed it to Sakura, which earned him a squeal of excitement. Sakura also launched at him and embraced him in a big hug, which earned smirks from Ino, Temari and Samui. They weren't threatened by Sakura. Because they knew how Naruto felt and, come one, she was totally flat compared to each of them. After food was ordered and the babies were placed in their high chairs, Ino started the gossip session. So, Ruto, spill it. Have Mama and Q started trying yet? Naruto avoided the question and sipped on some water. How am I supposed to know? Temari cocked an eyebrow at him. So, you wouldn't know anything about the fox mating mark on her left breast. Naruto shrugged, dunno. Samui chuckled, such a poor liar. How are you a shinobi again? I just kick ass and take names. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly. Shino chimed in, well, Ruto, I think they make a good mating pair. Naruto was grateful for the opportunity to divert attention. Oh, speaking of mating pairs, why has Chome gone silent about your relationship? Shino pushed his glasses up and shrunk into his collar. I do not wish to continue this discussion in a public setting. Ten looked around, where is Cho anyways? She normally trains with us. She is with Mama today. Samui informed the group. Ino, never one to be taken off the trial of hot gossip, turned to Shino. So, it has gotten serious, huh? Shino blushed and turtled down into his jacket even further. It is going well. Ino squealed like a fangirl and Temari stepped in. Don't let her status hold you back. I know you Aburame suppress your emotions but listen to that buzzing in your heart and you can't go wrong. Status? Neji asked. Don't worry about it. So, Neji, what has Hiyashi decided in reference to our new project? Naruto asked. Neji smiled gracefully, he is going to approve. He said that when you go, then I will be free to go with you. That's awesome. Naruto cheered. I really could use your help getting things set up. Choji downed a plate of sushi and asked, getting what set up, Ruto? Well, you know how I will become the daimyo of the land of whirlpools and wave when I turn 21. Choji and the group nodded. Well, I am recruiting clans that want to spread branch families to my lands. It sounds like Neji will lead the new branch in Uzu and that will be a massive help. Ten grabbed Neji's hand and shot him a concerned look. And when were you going to tell me about this? Neji sighed, well, if we get married then I would inform you. Plus, Lord Hiyashi recently approved of the new branch. It is hard since Hinata is also forming a branch in Suna. Every head in the booth turned to Hinata. The Hyuga girl blushed and sank into the booth. Gaara and I will be getting married after the Akatsuki and Iwa are dealt with. Father approved me heading a branch family there. While the girls squealed and gossiped, the guys ate their meals. Everything went well and the group divided up and returned to their individual duties for the evening. Life in Konoha was good and things had stabilized. It also helped that he was able to flash around and play delivery boy for the Kajin daimyo. They all had tablets and they were each able to communicate instantly with one another, which made things in the four-nation alliance flourish quickly. Will you please be an actor in your own play? As life continued at its frantic pace, Naruto and the Senju clan were feeling the weight of their many duties. Naruto's clone armies were summoned each day and set about managing the orphanage, supervising his clothing business, managing the sealing business and answering calls from a variety of his influential customers. That was why he was surprised when Itachi popped up on his tablet and asked him to report to the Hokage's office. As Naruto entered the office, he saw two familiar faces and he couldn't stop a smile from gracing his face. He bowed respectfully to Itachi and reported in. Thanks for coming, Naruto. This is Yuki Fujika's and her producer Sandayu. They have come to make a request of you and may wish to recruit you for a long-term mission. Itachi spoke in his monotone. Naruto turned to the two and bowed formally. It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Naruto Senju Uzumaki. How may I be of service? Yuki spoke up in an animated fashion that contrasted pretty sharply with what Naruto remembered last time around. Are you new Kitsune? Naruto looked to Itachi and sighed. Yes, I would ask you to keep my pseudonym a secret, please. I have enough attention already. Sandayu waved off his concerns. Of course, my boy. I contacted your publishing house, and they provided me your name. Shall we get down to business then? Naruto and Itachi nodded. Well, my boy, we would like permission to turn your book into a movie. The Princess Yuki storyline is now complete, and we have been looking for a new movie. And it was this or that degrading smut called Ika Ika. Koyuki snarled at the thought of making a movie out of the perverted novels. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Well, I am honored. I understand why you wouldn't want to act out my grandfather's books. So, you just want permission to use my novels. Couldn't we have worked that contract out through the publishing house? He wanted them to say what they really wanted already. Sandayu chuckled nervously. Well, my boy, we would also like to hire protection during the shoot. Plus, if our protection were one of our actors, then it would kill two birds with one stone. Naruto cocked an eyebrow. One of your actors? I don't act. Yuki stepped forward and offered a mix of a pouty face and the puppy dog eyes no jutsu. Please, Naruto. I really want to act alongside you. Why me? He replied neutrally. Yuki began playing with her hair and swirling it around her finger. Because you are beautiful. You are like literally the most desired man in the elemental nations. Not to mention, you wrote the novel, so it is only fitting that you star in the production. Naruto pondered the idea. He wanted to take this mission and save Snow Country. He had honestly been waiting for it, but it was still a high-risk mission. It nearly went foobar last time around. Well, princess, there are some pretty steamy scenes in my writing. What are your plans for those? Sandayu answered for the furiously blushing actress. We planned on including them. The way you wrote them were so emotional and gripping. We only hope to have some of that essence in the scenes. Naruto sighed. And where will we do the shoot? Snow Country Mountains. Sandayu answered. Itachi got involved here. Why Snow Country? They aren't exactly allied to us. Rumors say that Dodo, the reigning sovereign, is working alongside Akatsuki. Neither Itachi nor Naruto missed the flinch and chakra fluctuation of the two in front of them. The scenery matches the start of the novel. Sandayu answered in an unconvincing fashion. Even Yuki looked like she didn't want to go back there. Very well, I accept. I will try to act, but I don't promise much. Plus, you will need to come to my compound and request permission from my wives. Naruto said with a look to Itachi that he will talk to him once they are in private. Wives? Yuki asked. As in plural. Naruto nodded. Yes, I have 3 wives. Went through hell to get them and I plan to keep them. Very well, we accept your generous invitation. What time should we arrive for dinner? Sandayu cut in. 5 p.m. Just push the seal on the right side of the gate and someone will come out to greet you. Naruto answered. After the film producer and actress left, Naruto turned to Itachi and opened himself to questions. What do you know, Naruto? Itachi asked seriously. Naruto offered a sincere smile. I want to do this. Dodo is bad news and if he gives Snow Country's technology to Akatsuki, then it could complicate things. Plus, Yuki Fujika's is the missing snow princess, Koyuki Kazuhana. Itachi smirked. So, you just agreed to do sex scenes with an actual princess? Naruto shrugged. I did no such thing. I said she had to ask my wives. Itachi let out a small chuckle. Very well. What about the mission? What are you planning? Infiltrate, incapacitate and kill Dodo. Shouldn't be too hard. Itachi sighed. Only you could say chakra armor is no big deal. Naruto waved him off. Nah, everyone in my study group would be just fine. The chakra armor is no big deal. It is a crutch that they rely on. Who do you want to take with you? Itachi asked. Speed and power. Can I take Team Guy along with my girls? I know that they will want to come along since the movie is going to be filmed. Itachi chuckled dryly. You want to topple a dictator with 8 people? Yeah, you're right. That is kinda overkill. I guess I only need my girls. Naruto shot back with some added snark. Itachi waved him out of the office. Take Team Guy and your girls. Add Shizuka. I want you to evaluate her combat potential. Naruto bowed. Yes, sensei. Senju compound, dinner with a princess. Sandayu and Koyuki pushed the seal on the right-hand side of the Senju gate. Moments later, a brunette version of Naruto opened the gate and greeted them. Yuki blushed at the guard uniform and dual blades that the man carried. Good evening, Yuki Fujika's and Sandayu Asama. Welcome to the Senju compound. I am Naruto's brother, Yami Senju. Yami bowed formally and welcomed them into the compound. As they were walking, Yuki asked, Are you Naruto's twin? Yami chuckled, no, there were extenuating circumstances with my brother and I. Yuki decided to drop it and change the topic, so, how did your brother get 3 wives? Yami shrugged, he has a problem saying no to hot, blonde bombshells. Yuki blushed and looked down while playing with her hair. Sandai chuckled and whistled in appreciation at the beautiful compound. Do you know how long Naruto has been writing the Second Chance series? Yami chuckled, since he was young. He had the first book finished when he was still a kid, but he was too shy to have it published. Yuki pouted a bit, I still haven't been able to read the second book. The publishing house said they would ship it to me. Yami offered her his copy of the book, here you go. Forgive me, I am an underliner. Yuki snatched the book like a precious object and clutched it to her chest. Thank you, thank you, thank you. While Yami was waving her off, they entered the dining hall that the family rarely used when they were hosting important guests. Yami guided the guests to their seats, and they sat down in the rowdy mixture of the Senju family. Kurama and Tsunade, Hikari and Shikamaru, Yami and Tayuya, Chome and Shino, and then Naruto and his girls. Yuki looked around the table, completely overwhelmed by the couples and their casual attitudes. Naruto stood up and clinked a glass. Everyone, please extend a warm welcome to our guests, Yuki Fujikas and Sandai Osama. A bunch of waves and hellos echoed across the moderately sized dining hall. Yuki bowed, thank you for hosting us. Tamari, Ino and Samui exchanged looks before Ino stepped up. Oh, please, thank you for coming. We are all fans of your Princess Yuki movies. I was sad to hear that they were discontinued. Sandai groaned, yes, the author died unexpectedly. It was unfortunate, but that is why we are so excited for Naruto's books. They are absolutely gripping and heart-wrenching. Tamari took the hint, so, you wish to turn Naruto's book into a film. You okay with that, princess? Yuki blushed, yes, well, I have never done a steamy scene, but every woman in the world wants to be loved like what was written in those pages. Ino wiped away a small nosebleed. You ready to do that on camera? Yuki blushed cherry red and waved her hands in front of her. No, no, no. Actresses have ways of doing it that make it look real, but there is no actual sex. Samui chuckled and her icy blue eyes danced in delight. Oh, we know that, sweetie. But you still need to get naked on camera, right? Sandai coughed uncomfortably as Yuki nearly fainted from her atomic blush. Yes, well, that is why we are requesting Naruto as the actor. Yuki is taken with his writing, and I sense he would do very well on screen. All heads turned to Naruto, who held his hands up defensively. Look, I told them that they needed to get your approval first. I don't know why they want me, but they do. So, what do you say, girls? The sister wives all huddled up and left room for Tsunade to join in. You think she just wants a piece of Ruto? Ino asked. Tamari looked over Ino's shoulder and nodded, no doubt, but I know we can trust Ruto. So, is it cool to let our man kiss another woman? Samui asked. Ino shrugged, doesn't bother me that much. We could go with and watch the whole movie get shot. If we do that, then we can put our foot down if things get too steamy. Tamari added with a pensive look. Tsunade chuckled, it is Ruto in a love scene. It is going to get steamy, even if he tones it down. Ino sighed, no helping that. Just think, girls, if we let him do this, we can give his shit for the rest of his life. And we can make him dedicate a clone to finish the third book. Samui added. After a collective nod, they rose out of the blonde huddle and Tamari addressed Yuki. Very well, we approve. We will be able to press the stop button and have a say on any of the intimate scenes. Yuki blushed cherry red and Sandai nodded. Very well. We will pay for your protection and allow you to supervise production. Naruto beamed a smile that lit up the room. Awesome, well, sounds like we got a deal. I will let you discuss payment for film rights with the publishing house. I will also let them negotiate my actor's pay. For the mission, we will charge you a B rank protection mission for the duration of the filming. Tsunade remembered the snow mission from Naruto's stories, so she decided to feel it out. So, where will you go to first for the filming? Sandai coughed and cleared his throat. Snow country. The environment would be artistically fitting for the opening of the film and book. Tsunade exchanged a knowing look and nod with Naruto, well, safe travels. I look forward to seeing the finished product. Ride to snow country. Naruto, Samui, Temari, Ino and Team Guy showed up at the gate to see Sandayu and the film crew. Naruto looked around, as did the girls, and they didn't see Yuki anywhere. They closed the distance with Sandayu and saw that the producer was wearing an exasperated look on his face. "Where is Yuki at?" Naruto asked his mission leader. Sandayu sighed, "She made me find a hairdresser that would change her hair. She said she wanted to get into her new role as Akari." Ino cocked an eyebrow and got into her sassy pose. "Who did she go to? What does she need to do to get in that role?" Sandayu shrugged, "I don't know. We are about to find out," Naruto said as he turned around and looked down the main street after feeling her chakra signature. At least he didn't have to go and hunt her down this time around. "Ah, shit," Naruto said under his breath. Temari giggled and it seemed to be contagious because Ino and Samui joined. Moments later, it all connected at once for them and the thought was just too funny. Temari leaned into Naruto, "Looks like she wanted to be your type, Ruto." As Naruto groaned, Samui leaned over Ino's shoulder and whispered, "Where is the off button? Can we shut him down?" Tima 10 looked on confused and Shizuka was standing there with a questioning look on her face and her hand on her hips. Ino joined in the ribbing, "Well, ladies, what do we think about adding a famous actress to the bunch?" As the girls giggled, Naruto groaned louder. "She is just getting into the role. I wrote Akari as a blonde because I loved all of you." Temari patted Naruto's shoulder in a patronizing way. Sure, we believe you, Ruto." Yuki walked up to the group and cocked her head to the side, not understanding the current situation. When Naruto looked up and offered a weak smile, she blushed and played with strands of her newly platinum blonde hair. "So, Naruto, what do you think?" Naruto's smile grew and he replied, "Well, it suits you pretty well, Akari." Yuki's blush deepened and she looked like a sheepish schoolgirl and her eye dropped to the ground and she fidgeted shyly. Thank you. Alright, let's move out. We need to get to port by tonight and the ship leaves port tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Sandayu announced to the group. The ship ride to Snow Country was eventful and Naruto spent much more time working with Yuki than last time around. She gave him pointers on his acting, rehearsed lines and Naruto worked to adapt the book to the screen in the best way he knew how. While he was doing this, he was trying to remember the mission and he wanted to base some of the scenes around the battles he knew were coming. That prompted him to pull Sandayu and Yuki into a room with him and Guy. "Sandayu, is there anything you feel like sharing with us and the princess here?" Naruto said in a much firmer tone than he had used with them before. Even Guy straightened his spine when he realized Naruto was in serious mode. Sandayu fidgeted, What or why you talking about, Lord Senju?" Naruto sighed, "Well, let's start with Princess Koyuki Kazuhana. Then, you can tell me what you have planned while we are in Snow Country. Finally, I will shatter your plans and lay out a new plan once we have up-to-date intel." Yuki, or Koyuki now, looked scandalized at Sandayu. "You promised this trip wouldn't be about that." Naruto put a comforting hand on her shoulder and took all of the anger out of her. "Koyuki, I know why you are scared. I don't expect you to embrace this right away. Just know that I will be deposing Dodo. If you feel like leading your people to a better future, I will help you with that." Sandayu sighed, "Lord Senju, we have organized a rebellion. I have 200 samurai that were loyal to Koyuki's father. We were going to plan a counter-ambush while traveling through the country." Naruto held up a hand, "Stop, that was an idiotic plan. Why would you use your most valuable piece as bait? Second, do you know your enemy? Do you even know your own forces? I know you were once a samurai general, but this plan was just sloppy." Sandayu's head fell to his chest. "I have no choice, the people of Snow are slowly dying. Dodo has raised taxes on people that live in a barren land to raise an army. He has trains, a blimp, kunai launchers and about 50 shinobi and 400 samurai. He lives in a fortress that is unassailable. We need to draw him out." Naruto actually laughed at that. "Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea what I can do?" Guy put a hand on Naruto's shoulder to back him up. "I am not a fan of overly destructive jutsu, but there is nothing Naruto can't do." Sandayu looked skeptically at Naruto and Koyuki was still lost in her own thoughts. "We are talking about a fortress here. Not, I one-punched a friggin' mountain, man. Just relax. The only thing I need to know is if you want to keep the fort or not." Naruto shot a deadpan look at Sandayu and cut him off with a look of agitation on his face. Honestly, I hope you say no because we could get some amazing footage for a final battle scene if I destroy the base. A red, slitted eye cracked open within the mindscape and a wood clone of Kurama formed out of Naruto's back, which shocked Koyuki and Sandayu. Ruto, we need to destroy it. I totally want to see that, and it can be a good close to your first book. We would just have to shoot the rescue scene separately and then the princess there will stand by your side as you drop the base into the gorge. Sandayu was overwhelmed. Who are you and how did you know that the base was on the side of a gorge? Naruto chuckled sheepishly. Well, this here is Kurama, you met him last night. He is actually the Kyuubi no Kitsune in a wood clone of mine. As for your second question, let's just say we have a good intelligence network. Sandayu nodded dumbly, but Koyuki didn't know what the Kyuubi was. Wait, aren't you Lady Senju's boyfriend? Kurama nodded proudly and smirked at Koyuki, and weren't you a brunette last time I saw you? This comment made Koyuki glance at Naruto, blush and avert her eyes when they met the startling azure blues that were dancing with amusement. Naruto laughed, alright. Look, Yuki, this is my mama's boyfriend, and he is the most powerful chakra entity ever that is sealed in me. It is confusing, but just know that with him and I around you will be fine. And Q, she is getting into her role as Akari. Kurama's smirk turned devilish. Oh, silly me, I thought she was trying to seduce you. Koyuki's blush turned atomic, and Naruto chuckled and slugged Q in the shoulder. Sandayu coughed and brought everyone back to the serious topic while Guy was just watching the scene with an amused smile. Naruto, are you saying you knew what was going to happen when I requested this mission and you only need your team to take Dodo and his forces head on? Naruto shrugged. Guy, do you want a good fight? I will put you and your team into the movie if you put on a good show. Guy punched a fist into the air. It would be the fieriest and most youthful endeavor of my life to join you in your first movie, young Senju. Oi, Ruto, I know you are going to let me in on the action, right? Kurama pleaded. Naruto cocked an eyebrow and looked at Koyuki. Who do you want in the movie? You can pick from my squad. I will film all of the fights, so you get to pick who you think would look best on camera. I claim Dodo though. Sandayu coughed once more. Why are you talking like this as a game? Like this will be some fun jaunt through snow country. Naruto sighed before firming his gaze and flashing into GKSM, Golden Kurama Sage mode. Look, Sandayu, I could do this on my own. I don't believe that is best for the princess, my team or the world. If anything gets out of hand, I will step in. So, until you see me in this mode again, just relax, please. I simply thought we could get some good, authentic fights and somehow find a way to incorporate them into the movie. Sandayu nodded at the overwhelming display of power. His jaw then fell when Naruto placed his hand on Kurama and transferred a good portion of the power into Kurama. Kurama flexed his arms and hands and grinned devilishly once more. Thank you, Camy, I love this guy. Koyuki just looked on in amazement and she couldn't stop the fluttering in her heart or the soaking of her panties. That was amazing. Up in Camy's realm, Camy was scowling at the television and Minato flashed in front of the big screen television and caught the volley of golden kunai that Camy had flung at the new television. Kushina was laughing so hard that she let her head slam unceremoniously onto the desk. Minato sighed and addressed his goddess and boss. Lady Camy, we just got this TV. Please don't destroy it yet. Camy scoffed and clicked her fingers, which blew the TV up which abruptly tossed Minato onto the floor. She snapped her fingers again and a new TV was in its place. She cocked a defiant eyebrow at Minato. Minato, how did you devote yourself to one woman when your son literally makes every woman that I allow to interact with him fall in love? Kushina raised her head from the desk, still laughing. Hee, Camy, it is your own fault. Plus, he isn't going to give in to the princess. He didn't last time around either. Camy scowled. No, but he is going through a loophole. I can't punish him when he is just acting. Minato couldn't stop the mischievous smile that found its way onto his face. Is somebody jealous? Camy flicked her hand and Minato flew through 6 walls and out of Camy's castle. Kushina raised an eyebrow at Camy. My lady, if you feel that strongly about it, then why don't you just tell him? Camy, yes, the goddess of this universe, blushed and refused to meet Kushina's eyes. I can't. I am a goddess and Naruto is a mortal child, I am bound by the rules I created. Kushina sighed, well, that's just your own stubbornness getting in the way of what you want. As Naruto would say, rules are meant to be broken. Camy's blush intensified and she remained silent with a pensive look on her face. Back on the ship, 2 days had passed in a somewhat pleasant journey. Ruto literally rocked the boat each night with his girls. Turns out privacy seals couldn't stop the over-enthusiastic attention that he gave to his wives. The guests initially thought they were going through stormy seas, but after each of them couldn't sleep, they went to the deck to catch some fresh air. Then, each morning the 3 glowing blondes made it harder and harder for Koyuki to deal with the burgeoning crush that was developing for Naruto. The girls watched on amused as Koyuki's flirting turned from shy and tentative to obvious and klutzy in less than 2 days. Of course, the girls knew Naruto would never abuse their trust and they were honestly used to the women of the world falling for their man. They made a game of it and engaged in their own side commentary. They liked Koyuki well enough, and she was a good woman, so there were no hard feelings. Plus, it was really funny watching Naruto get into his role as Naru. Yes, he named the main character of his books after himself. He figured it fit since he crafted his books as a romanticized version of his previous life. His first book actually started with his mission to Wave Country and ends in Snow Country, which may have been why Koyuki was so enamored by it. Of course, he adjusted the names and abilities and altered some key events and some timelines to make it more compelling. He used his initial meeting with Haku as inspiration for Naru to fall in love with Akari, Koyuki's character. After a memorable first meeting, the two separate and meet up later in life when Naru and Hikaru gets dragged into a mission to protect her. The first book ends with Dodo's death and the salvation of Akari's country. On the boat, they shot the scenes where the hero was preparing to go with his trusty sidekicks to take down the Dark Tyrant. These scenes included a bunch of angst and ended with the parting, good luck kiss of Akari and the hero. Thus, Ino, Tamari and Samui watched on in amusement with a tinge of jealousy as Koyuki's knees went weak after the first passionate kiss. The director actually called for a redo because Koyuki was in no shape for the end of that scene. The girls giggled and placed bets on how many takes it would take to get this scene done. Finally, after 6 retakes of the kissing scene, Naruto called it a day and prepared for the fight that he was expecting. He remembered that 4 people ended up fighting Team 7 midway through the journey last time around. That night, he called his team in to discuss expectations for the mission with a bit of a dramatic twist. Alright guys, I know that it is criminal to underestimate your enemies, so I am going to fill you in with what I know. First, there will be a couple shinobi in chakra armor. This armor absorbs ninjutsu, a higher rank would be needed to get through it. That being said, my network told me that each of the chakra armors has a power core that would be considered its weak spot. Plus, the power core can be overwhelmed if it absorbs too much chakra. That being said, they can use the chakra to strengthen their own jutsus, so be careful. Lee was raising his hand animatedly, so Naruto nodded to him. Does it counter taijutsu? Haha, no, Lee, not completely. It gives them an enhanced defense, but nothing you can't break through with a couple good shots. Anyone else? Shizuka nodded. How many of these chakra armors should we expect to face? Naruto shrugged. They are expensive and rare according to intel. 5 to 10 would be my guess. Neji followed this up. Any other known weaknesses? The joints and head. The armor is not supposed to cover the head, but we will have to put that to the test. Okay, moving on, they have some technology that you haven't seen. First, they have a train which is basically a big, clunky transport carriage made of metal that moves along tracks. Second, they have a weaponized blimp which can fly through the sky, so keep eyes up. Finally, and probably most deadly, are the kunai launchers. The launches can launch volleys of hundreds of kunai in seconds. They have these around their bases and on the train. Best way to deal with them? Ino asked. Earth walls, water walls are a powerful wind jutsu. I am sure everyone here can handle it, but I was honestly more concerned about the samurai. Naruto answered. Why are the samurai even getting involved? Neji asked, not understanding why lesser combatants would muddle the battlefield. Naruto nodded in understanding before he turned serious. Okay, this is where I start to get silly. I have so much faith in each of you that I plan to use our fights to get footage for the film. Before you freak out, it also is because we can't just fight Snow Country's fight for them. The samurai are an honorable bunch, and it would be offensive to them if we simply did this for them. Guy and Lee nodded in understanding, but Neji and Shizuka scoffed. Temari spoke up, I have faith in Naruto, and we all know that if he takes it seriously, he can keep everyone safe. Naruto chuckled nervously before the next part, okay, so this is where it may get weird. In my book, instead of chakra the characters use magic. Not that much of a difference, but if you can refrain from saying your jutsu's names out loud, that would be appreciated. Also, in any fight you take, I will have a wood clone filming you and you will have some lines and prompts I would like in the film. So, don't end it too quickly and don't be scared to get a bit flashy with it. We want to put on a good show. Shizuka looked incredulous, do you believe we are that much stronger than the enemy shinobi? You are asking us to risk our lives for entertainment. Samui chuckled, Shizuka, you have joined in our workouts for the last couple months. You should know the capabilities of this team. Intel reports that the have 2, possibly 3, low to mid, A, rank shinobi leading them. That means that everyone here can easily win a one-on-one. If you are not confident, just tag team with Lee. That was what Naruto had planned anyways. Lee punched the air and then clapped excitedly, oh, how youthful. I get to fight alongside Shizuka. Naruto put a calming hand on Lee's shoulder, Lee, you play one of Naruto's companions and Shizuka is the slave that you rescued from the Dark General's forces. I did not have any lines about the flames of youth. Your character is excitable, but I would ask that you temper your enthusiasm during the fight scenes, at least verbally. Neji nodded, but he saw a flaw. Okay, Naruto, how will you divide the fights up? Naruto smirked, my Sage mode will give me plenty of warning and I will divide you up. My clones will each have cameras and tag along. I will be with Koyuki, and my girls are on crew protection. Ino pouted, when do we get our screen time? Naruto chuckled, you 3 will play Koyuki's loyal maids. Before and after the rescue scene as well as the later part of the movie. You will each have a couple lines, my love. Guy stepped forward and puffed out his chest, Naruto, my most youthful rival, when does the Green Beast get to fight? You will be leading first contact and you will fight against their leader. Guy, I will need you to get into a costume, of sorts, when I sense the enemies. You will play the hero's sensei. Unfortunately, the sensei dies in the conclusion of the first battle. Naruto held up a hand, don't worry about throwing a fight. I will use transformed shadow clones to help shoot any scene like that. Guy held out a big thumbs up, thank you for giving me such a youthful role. Any other questions? Naruto asked, ready to wrap this meeting up and get back to writing. Tenten spoke this time, are they all ice jutsu users? To the best of our knowledge, that is their main affinity. However, unlike the Yuki clan, they can only manipulate the ice and snow around them. Unfortunately, in Snow Country, that is pretty much everywhere. When will the samurai get involved? Temari asked. They will travel with us in the caravan. If nothing happens before we reach the fort, then I will let them form the front line before I bring down the fort. Are you going to kill everyone in the fort? Ino asked with trepidation and everyone else shifted uncomfortably. I will give them a chance to surrender, and I will make sure to give them some time. Unfortunately, that means there will probably be a fight in front of the fort. I will try to destroy it slowly, but I would expect a high number of casualties. Naruto said, torn between feeling guilty for the lives he will take and wanting to avoid casualties on his side. Battle on the iceberg. The meeting closed shortly after that, and the next day Naruto was meditating in Sage mode and felt first contact coming. It was frustrating timing because he was beginning to feel something different in the ocean's energy. Once again, he felt the shinobi stationed on an iceberg that was about 5 miles off the coast of Snow Country. Naruto rallied the shinobi, got them into their costumes for the movie and secured the camera harnesses to his clones. He couldn't wait to see their incredulous faces when a camera crew was literally spectating their fight. Naruto worked with Sandayu and the direct, Claude, who was some foreign film director, to coordinate with the ship's captain. The mid-size ship pulled up at the edge of the iceberg and the shinobi went to put on their performance. Naruto felt 4 distinct chakra signatures and he knew that these would be the ones in chakra armor. He put Guy in charge of Lee, Shizuka, Neji and Tenten before he engaged. A chameleon jutsu over his 4 wood clones that were carrying cameras. Guy led his squad over the tip of the iceberg in the direction that Naruto had directed. The iceberg was massive and was easily 2 kilometers wide and 1 kilometer long. It also centered around an icy peak and Guy was directed to climb to the top of the peak. Naruto Clone 1 swung around the back of the enemy shinobi with his camera and got into a good position for an upward film angle. Guy beat the enemy shinobi to the peak, and he took up an imposing position at the crest of the peak with his team framing over the crest of the ridge. Naruto Clone 1 wanted to make a chef's kiss sound, but refrained itself in order to capture the scene that was playing out. 4 shinobi in chakra armor and weird-looking helmets stood below the Konoha group and took up poses. The clone hoped Guy, who was wearing a loose-fitting black kimono with a bear-skin cloak and black fingerless gloves. To his chagrin, he wore a bandana that was eerily reminiscent of Kakashi's face mask. Guy also borrowed one of Naruto's extra-long 78-inch katanas as a prop. Guy preferred using his fists, but he was passable as a kenjutsu practitioner, especially after training with Naruto. One of Naruto's clones had grabbed Shizuka and cloaked her in a chameleon genjutsu and he tied her hands quickly and gagged her, much to her confusion and dismay. Naruto may be getting a little too into the acting, but he wanted some high-quality, genuine footage. The clone spawned a quick shadow clone that used Shunshin to transport Shizuka, who appeared behind the snow shinobi. Guy's eyes widened slightly, but now his lines Naruto gave him made more sense. He felt Naruto Clone 3 shift behind his shoulder to get a better shot of the team below. Guy scowled deeply and fixed a look of rage on his face. "You cretins! Unhand the maiden and step aside. Your unjust rule of Snow Mountain will no longer be tolerated." Guy roared out, which confused the hell out of the snow group. Lee saw Shizuka tied up behind the shinobi and only remained calm because he felt a calming hand from Naruto Clone 2. The clone fed him his line and said that everything would be okay. Lee didn't have to fake the look of concern and fury on his face as he looked down at Shizuka. "My lady, fear not. I will dispatch these scoundrels and come to thy rescue," Lee shouted while Neji and Tenten struggled to remain professional at the absurdity of the situation. Nadare Ruga, the leader of the snow group, was beyond confused. These strangely dressed people were shouting at him and he honestly had no clue what was going on. That was when he heard a muffled groan and turned around to see Shizuka tied up. He grabbed her roughly by the arm and pulled her to him, which was a big fucking mistake. Lee wouldn't tolerate Shizuka being in danger any further and he disappeared in a crackle of lightning, which was Lee's chakra nature and the side effect of using lightning reinforcement. This made him as fast as Sage Mode 1 Naruto, which meant that he was faster than anyone the snow shinobi had ever seen. Before Nadare even turned around, he was sent flying down the hill of the iceberg and into the ocean. Lee grabbed Shizuka and freed her from her bindings and placed a passionate kiss on her lips to stop the shouts of anger and promised vengeance. It was film gold and Naruto was happy with the opening scene of the first battle in Snow Country. Lee's actions caused all hell to break loose. Team Guy darted forward and engaged their targets. Neji took Mizore, the big, goofy-looking guy that somehow propelled himself on a snowboard. Tenten engaged the pink-haired Kunoichi that had somehow sprouted wings out the back of her armor. Guy bounded down the mountain to engage Nadare and Lee partnered with Shizuka to engage a bulky male shinobi that was also wearing chakra armor. Neji's fight against Mizore, and action. Neji chased the shinobi that was riding down the icy peak on his snowboard. The terrain and shinobi item gave his adversary an advantage in mobility, at least for the moment. As he gave chase, he remembered Naruto's instructions. Never put yourself at risk, don't underestimate your enemy, but feel them out and do your best to put on a show. As Neji closed the distance at the base of the peak, he saw that he had about 50 square meters to work with. He unsealed the bow out of his right wrist and the first arrow auto-loaded in his bow before he let loose. The arrow sailed through the air and missed as Mizore was able to swerve his snowboard to dodge the projectile. However, he wasn't ready for the chakra explosion that erupted at the point of impact. Mizore was forced to regain his balance and he came to an abrupt stop. Mizore scowled as he unlatched himself from the chakra board and he pulled it onto his arm to use it as a long shield. He unsealed a tanto and turned to engage Neji. "You cannot defeat me, Leaf Shinobi. I am blessed with the chakra armor. None of your attacks will break through my defenses." Neji, assigned the role as the archer of the hero's entourage, recited his lines with a Hyuga-style indifference. I care not, scum. You will perish today for my lord and lady. Mizore cocked his head in confusion. What the hell are you idiots talking about? We are here to kill you and capture the princess. Now come and meet your death. Mizore began running at Neji, who was severely unimpressed. Neji pushed chakra into the loading seal for explosive arrows and he notched 2 of them simultaneously. Neji let loose the arrows at Mizore's feet once again, knowing that the arrows weren't likely to penetrate the chakra armor. The arrows impacted on either side of Mizore's feet and moments later an explosion sent him careening toward Neji. Neji sealed his bow and powered up his right fist and arm in chakra. He focused the chakra into a sharp point that covered his closed right fist. Neji's front foot slid forward, and he slammed a debilitating punch at the airborne Mizore. Mizore had never faced an enemy that he couldn't handle. He was the 3rd strongest shinobi in Snow Country and his armor was always able to give him a decisive advantage in battle. He usually reveled in his enemies' confusion and frustration when his armor absorbed their jutsu. However, this shinobi wasn't targeting his armor. He was targeting his feet and working around his strengths to exploit his weaknesses. Mizore's breath left his lungs, and he felt a piercing pain in his gut when Neji's right fist connected right below his diaphragm. The abrupt change in momentum sent him skidding toward the ocean in a crumpled heap and he could feel blood leaking out of his abdomen. He pulled back his hands and saw that they were covered in blood, and he could feel a hole in the chakra armor. Mizore rose to a knee with one hand still covering his gut and he scowled at Neji who once more had his bow in hand. Naruto Clone 4 took up a position in between Neji and Mizore and he focused the camera on Neji who was about to deliver his kill line and kill shot. Neji fixed his face into a stony and indifferent visage before he spoke in a low and menacing tone. With this arrow, I send it to thy maker. Neji let loose an arrow that had condensed and sharpened chakra in its tip that sailed through the air in a low and menacing hiss. The arrow glowed brilliantly as the chakra tip fought against the defenses of the chakra armor, but after milliseconds of resistance, that arrow's momentum penetrated through the armor's front and stuck through Mizore with its tip poking out of his back and the feathers of the arrow stuck in a black and blue array over his heart. The snow shinobi fell forward unceremoniously with blood dribbling from his mouth. Ten vs Fubuki, and action. Ten jumped down the hill slower than her teammates, but she was unleashing volleys of wind-covered kunai at the pink-haired kunoichi as she went. This, of course, drew Fubuki's attention and she leapt into the air before her wings expanded and she began soaring over the battlefield. Now, Ten knew why she was assigned this target. She kept the pink-haired girl's attention on her and bounded away from the evolving fights. She rounded the side of the peak that was closer to the boat, but she knew that Naruto would protect the crew and vessel if worst came to worst. Ten launched volleys of sealed kunai and shuriken into the air at her winged opponent. The kunoichi proved elusive as the air filled with steel and the armor is able to absorb the few kunai that clinked off the front. Ten, seeing that her current tactics weren't working, began to recalibrate her plan of attack. She paused momentarily, which prompted Fubuki to start the shit-talking. Little leaf girl, you can't touch me when I am in my armor. Your puny little weapons could never penetrate the peak of Snow's technology. Fubuki shouted in mid-flight. Ten was enraged by the taunting of her precious weapons. She took a deep breath and remembered that she was not solely a weapons expert anymore. She also remembered that if she wanted to get into the movie that she would need to say her lines. You, who work for an unjust ruler, dare talk down to me. I will shoot you down and free the people of Snow Mountain from your oppression. Fubuki was confused, very confused. She cocked her head mid-air, and she knew that she only had a minute or two more of flight before she would need to recharge the chakra armor. What the hell are you talking about, girl? Ten sighed before schooling her features. Our lady is the rightful ruler of Snow Mountain. Your dictator killed her father and unjustly claimed her throne. You will perish to the divine beauty of my steel. Ten palmed a brace of shuriken and focused her chakra into placing a fuinjutsu seal on the shuriken. Ten always loved explosions and she felt like blasting this pinky out of the air would give her some satisfaction. She finished molding the chakra, took aim and let loose the 10 shuriken. They arced through the air in a shotgun pattern and chased Fubuki, who swerved hard to the left, but it wasn't enough. 10 mid-sized explosions blew up over her right shoulder and the concussive blast sent her flailing into the ground in a mix of arms, legs and wings. 1010 didn't waste any time and she unsealed her favorite wakizashi, affectionately dubbed Needle. She dashed forward as Fubuki was trying to recover from the impromptu crash landing. 1010 was able to close the distance as Fubuki shakily rose to her feet with two kunai in hand. As 1010 was running, she heard the Naruto clone tell her to draw this out, so she held back in the opening strike of the battle. A 5-minute, one-sided, kenjutsu battle began as the Snow Kunoichi was forced to go through 2 sets of kunai due to 1010's sword shattering them. 1010 was highly skilled, and all of her moves were graceful and efficient. The kenjutsu dance was able to sever both mangled wings and it was able to shred some of the chakra armor. Fubuki now had blood trickling out of no less than 8 gashes and her armor's core was cracked. She grunted as yet another shallow slash forced her to bleed more of her own blood. 1010 then got the go-ahead to finish the fight, but the Naruto clone asked her to capture this opponent. 1010 offered a slight nod before she dashed forward and Fubuki screamed as 2 new gashes appeared at the back of her kneecaps. She fell to the ground, no longer able to support her own weight and her hands held her up as she hunched over. 1010 smashed the hilt of her wakizashi into the base of Fubuki's neck and sent her to the realm of the unconscious. You know, Ruto, those lines were funny. They were so confused that it was honestly hilarious. 1010 chirped as she applied a chakra-locking seal to the base of Fubuki's neck. The clone let the chameleon jutsu drop and answered 1010, yeah, I knew it would. I had to change the novels a bit, but you can't fake this quality of fight. The producer is going to need a change of pants when I show him this footage. 1010 waved him off, yeah, so can I change out of this silly costume now? Naruto clone chuckled, sure thing, 1010, thanks for playing along. Might Guy vs Nadare, ready, action. After Lee sent Guy's target flying, he suppressed the inner call of his flames of youth. He wanted to support his student and offer his praise. That being said, Guy was in business mode, and he would do anything for Naruto. Thus, he kept the grizzled and hardened face of the hero's sensei on, and he dashed at high speeds to locate Nadare. Guy had to suppress a chuckle at the sight of the Snow Squad leader. The man was soaking wet, and his cloak clung to his chakra armor. He was scowling as the icy sea water fell from his cloak and hair. Nadare spit on the ground and growled at Guy. What are you doing in my country, Konoha nin? Guy tried to remember his lines and forgot, so he turned toward the invisible Naruto and asked for a line check. Nadare watched the man nod before Guy turned back to him with a scowl on his face. Your country. You, who support the insurrectionist, claim that this is your country. My lady is the rightful princess and queen of this country. Nadare scowled, that bitch knows nothing of this country. She fled when she was a child. She should surrender to my lord and die in disgrace. Guy didn't have to fake the anger that flared to the surface upon his face. You insolent whelp. My lady is a good woman that was forced out of the country as a child. I will fight and die for my lady. Naruto Clone 1 kept the camera focused on the intimidating figure that was Might Guy. In his outfit, he carried a menacing presence, especially when his hardened eyes lit aflame with a just anger. Guy didn't exchange any more words. He slowly unsheathed his katana from his back and took up an opening stance. Nadare didn't seem to like this, and he started weaving through hand signs before calling out, Ice Style, Winter Blizzard. Guy coated his body in an earthen chakra, and he darted around the icy blizzard that erupted between him and his opponent. He was forced to reroute once more as an ice wall with spikes on it appeared in front of him. This didn't deter Guy, who was dedicated to using the katana as his character, Kashi, used in the book. Guy used 4 rapid slash to disintegrate the ice kunai that Nadare had sent his way. He made a show of swinging his katana sharply down to his right hip, as if he were clearing the blood off it, after blocking the projectiles. You jutsu a cold and lack the fiery passion of the flames of you. Ahem, I mean your icy jutsu just shows how cold and heartless your lord's reign is. Guy's challenge faltered due to the near relapse into the flames of youth. Nadare cocked his head to the side as he continued weaving through hand seals. He saw that Mizore was defeated, and he saw Fubuki get blown out of the sky. He now knew that he needed to retreat, which was why he was weaving through 52 hand seals, grateful that this oaf was letting him. As he held the last seal, he issued his challenge and warning to his opponent. Do not think that you will be successful in your mission. We will kill you and capture the princess, one way or another. I leave you with this gift today, so that I may kill you in our future battles. Nadare shouted as he slammed his hands into the ice. Oh shit. Guy, get back to the boat. Naruto's wood clone broke the chameleon jutsu and shouted. Guy felt the ground quaking and he saw the ice cracking beneath his feet. He wasn't going to let this foe go and he gripped the katana by the hilt over his right shoulder and hurled it at Nadare, who still had his hands on the icy ground. Guy let the katana go with a mighty roar and it hurled through the air in chunks of ice as it ripped Nadare's left arm off below the elbow. As the sword ripped through the arm, a massive whale made of ice rose from the base of the iceberg and cracked everything around it. It leapt into the air with a roar under Guy's position before it crashed into the iceberg. Chunks of ice and water flew everywhere from the point of impact and a mighty crack rang out through the icy ocean air as the iceberg began shattering. Before the whale surfaced, Guy disappeared in a black blur as he moved to gather his students and make it back to the boat. A Naruto clone formed out of the wood clone and dove into the ocean water to get his boss's katana back. It was an absolutely epic shot, and it would go well in the movie, but that was an extra long, chakra steel katana that Naruto didn't want to part with, damn it. The wood clone followed Guy back to the boat and noticed that Lee and Shizuka were already clearing the icy peak on their way back to the vessel. Before the boat came in sight, the shadow clone appeared in a shunshin and handed off the katana to the wood clone before popping itself. Back on the boat, Naruto had remained in a standing meditative position, and he felt all of the fights. As he thought, his allies had everything well in hand. Then, he felt the massive chakra surge and the ice jutsu coming from the base of the iceberg. He gathered the few crew members that were on the iceberg and got them ready for a rapid departure. He greeted Tenten and sealed the snow kunoichi into a stasis scroll. He saw Neji, Lee and Shizuka darting down the icy peak towards the boat as the ice cracked. He saw the director ordering the film crew to capture everything as the cameramen leaned over the boat. Finally, he saw Guy and his wood clone close the distance to the boat before leaping high into the air and landing on the vessel as the ice gave out underneath them. Welcome back, Guy. Where is my katana? Naruto asked, immediately noticing the absence of Heaven's Edge, a extra-long chakra steel katana that he had custom-made and spent hours engraving seals into. Guy chuckled nervously and fell into his sheepish pose. Boss, he threw it like a spear at their leader. Took the guy's arm off, but I had to send a clone into the ocean to retrieve it. The wood clone informed him with the camera harness still on its shoulder. Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, thanked Camy. Good call on that. I will give you some extra chakra so you can stick around longer. Maybe you can assist me tonight with my husbandly duties. The wood clone beamed a gigawatt smile at its creator. Thanks, boss. Guy wiped off his sweat drop and looked around at his team. It seemed like everything went well. Okay, Naruto, that was a good fight. What's next? Guy asked with a proud thumb up. The squad closed around their leaders as Naruto answered. Well, we make landfall and rendezvous with the samurai. From there, we will shoot some scenes and make our way to Dodo's castle. I am sure he will try to ambush us on our way, but it is tough to ambush someone who can passively sense every life signature within 10 miles. Sandayu nodded. Yes, I am a believer now. So, we will dock at Cold Point Port and rendezvous with my friends there. From there, it will be a 2-day journey through many mountain passes on our way to the fortress. Guy nodded along. How much longer to Cold Point Port? Sandayu answered promptly, we will get there by nightfall. Naruto clapped his hands and drew everyone's attention. Team 9, thank you for playing along. At this point, Naruto took a wind-powered punch to the back of his head, which he didn't even budge to. He turned and cast an apologetic look at Shizuka. Yeah, I am sorry about that, Shizuka. My clone went off on its own and did that. You have read the book, so I hope you can understand. Thank being said, I truly apologize for putting you in danger. Naruto bowed, along with his remaining clones, toward Shizuka. Shizuka blushed and suddenly turned abashed. Sigh, it's okay, Ruto. I forgive you. Lee swung an arm over Shizuka's shoulders. My rival, if you ever do something so unythful to my Shizuka again, I will not hesitate to open the gates on you. Naruto adopted his sheepish pose, but it was Kurama that answered, "That sounds like a good fight, Lee. Maybe I will take you up on that. Naruto did give me 8 tails and a bunch of sage chakra yesterday." Lee held his hands up in surrender and chuckled nervously, "No, Lord Kurama, my flames of youth cannot stand up to your eternal flames." Kurama chuckled heartily, "What about you, Guy? Care for a youthful spar once we make landfall?" Guy held out 2 thumbs up with his trademark smile, complete with the glint of sunlight. "Yes, Lord Kurama. It would be a most youthful endeavor." Kurama waved him off, "Enough with the lord business. I appreciate the respect, but you are close friends to my eternal partner. It is not needed." Guy bowed to Kurama, "Thank you for such an honor, Kurama." Koyuki approached the group with her 3 blonde guards. "Did everything go well?" Neji answered with an unusually sarcastic tone, "Yes, it was quite enjoyable. Something about seeing the clueless and confused faces when we were going through our lines was quite satisfying." Ten giggled, "It sure was. It felt awkward at first, but it was fun." "Naruto, how did the shots turn out?" Naruto shrugged, "Still need to review the footage. Plus, I haven't absorbed my clones yet. So, I dunno." Shizuka growled, "It better have been worth it." At Koyuki, Tamari, Samui and Ino's expectant looks, Naruto explained how one of his clones tied her up, gagged her and placed her near the enemy shinobi for the footage. Of course, this earned incredulous looks that devolved into a fit of girly giggles as the stories continued. The nervousness about treating live combat as a movie slowly faded and everyone got into the project of making the most kick-ass movie of all time. For the director's part, he couldn't believe that shinobi weren't used in all movies. They were invaluable assets in production with the cloning, transformations and many other talents. He would need to talk with his production company to hire shinobi for all future ventures. He was so impressed that he pulled Naruto aside and asked for his input. Naruto supported the idea and said that there would be many shinobi and ninja villages that would be interested participating. This was yet another way that Naruto found for ninjutsu to be used to make the world a better and happier place. Mountain ambush. After spending one more night rocking the boat and talking to Tsunade, Rias, Hikari, Hashi and Arashir for the rest of the night, Naruto awoke and met with the local samurai. He was amused to see Sandayu shed his fancy producer clothes and slide back into his samurai getup. He refrained from commenting in respect for his warrior spirit, but that did stop Kurama from ribbing him through the mental link. It took another whole day to rouse the samurai loyalist and they set out in a caravan moving through the mountains towards Dodo's castle. As they walked, Naruto remained in Sage Mode Level 1 constantly to make sure that the area near him was clear. He passed the time talking with Koyuki and the other samurai. The camera crew and their equipment moved slowly on horseback through the mountain passes that we covered in almost a foot of snow. They were pretty much a sitting target for any competent shinobi, but Naruto was counting on that mindset. As they set up camp on the first night, Naruto pulled his team in for a meeting with Sandayu and the samurai captain. The samurai were incredulous at Naruto's plan, but it was Sandayu that convinced him to follow along with the plan after sharing how they decimated Nadare and the elite squad that was with him. "So, Lord Senju, you wish for us to wait for your cue to charge. Then, you expect us to take shelter behind walls that your shinobi will erect?" the samurai captain asked. Naruto nodded, "Yes, this is part of the ambush. My scout clones have seen the enemy loading up their train with kunai launchers. According to the maps, we will have to pass through a mountain pass that has a train track running through it. This is the most likely point of ambush. I will kill their scouts and I want the samurai set up on either side of the track along with my team. Half will be with Team 9 and the other half will go with Kurama and Shizuka. Both squads will have a couple wood clones. I will accompany the princess along with my girls." Chome chimed in through the link in the seal, "Naruto, can you let me out? I can help too." Naruto pondered it for a bit before deciding and thinking back, "Cho, I am not against you inhabiting a wood clone. I will need you not to transform it though. Also, none of your unique ninjutsu or yokai. I don't want to reveal you yet." Chome buzzed excitedly, "Sure thing, Ruto. I am excited to participate in this battle." Naruto chuckled internally, "You bet, Cho." Sandayu was nodding along, more and more convinced that Naruto's plan would work. He was fixed looking at a spot on the map, "Then we should head out now with the cover of darkness. We do not want their scouts to see us. Naruto suppressed a laugh and looked seriously at Sandayu. I have already neutralized all of the scouts along our path. The only thing we have to worry about is the blimp, but it is not airborne yet. Sandayu and the samurai captain looked at him with their jaws on the mat before Kurama let out a hearty laugh. Ha, ha, ha. I recommend you quit underestimating my partner. Guy slapped Naruto on the back and answered Q's hearty laugh with one of his own, but he added a flashy smile and a thumbs up. Indeed, Naruto is most youthful. Naruto chuckled sheepishly. Guy, before you go, I will get you a transformation seal. Your character is supposed to be dead at this point in the movie. If you want to play an eccentric veteran, I will make the henja samurai so that you can blend with them. Guy nodded. I trust you and your hip attitude to make me look hip too. I wish to put on a good performance so that Mei will be proud to watch the movie with me. Kurama patted Guy on the back. Your first scene turned out well. Yumizuka's girlfriend will have no choice but to be proud of you. Guy blushed and turned sheepishly toward Kurama. You think so? Naruto backed up Kurama. Sure thing, Guy. The genuine Might Guy is something special. Far cooler than any of his masked eternal rivals. This comment lit a fire in Guy's eyes, and he wrapped Naruto in a bone-crunching hug. Thank you, Naruto. I owe it to you. Kurama watched the goofy scene with a proud smirk on his face, but he couldn't help himself from thinking the same thing. Closing his eyes, Kurama offered his gratitude to Camy, an occurrence that was becoming more and more frequent. Kurama heard Camy respond, You are welcome, Foxy-kun. Look after him for me. Kurama simply nodded and returned his attention to the meeting. Naruto grew serious again and issued his orders. Sandayu, get your men ready to move out. Make sure they have their cold weather gear and are ready for a cold night. Guy, ask Tenten to make some temperature control tags for them. Remember, during the battle, Koyuki will be by my side, and she will be transformed. My clone will look like Koyuki, so if you see anything happen to her, don't freak out. Sandayu, Guy and the samurai captain nodded before leaving the tent. Kurama put a hand on Naruto's shoulder. I will look after them. You keep these people safe. Sure thing, Q. I will see you tomorrow. Let's see if this plays out the same as well. Naruto said. Dodo's castle. While the movie crew and the Konoha group were camping out, Dodo was in a state of rage within his castle as Nadare reported back to him. You are telling me that a mere squad of Konoha shinobi were able to best my elite squad and killed 3 of them? Dodo shouted at the one-armed Nadare. Nadare bowed. Yes, my lord. They were ready for us. It is the team led by Might Guy and they had a 5th member, a black-haired girl. Dodo was enraged, but this wasn't a complete loss. And you are sure they had no other backup? Nadare frowned. Well, there was likely someone back with the ship and princess. Knowing Konoha, that would most likely mean another squad. We should expect 8 shinobi at the most. Dodo pondered over the new information before issuing orders. Get our forces ready. We will deploy from the train and blimp and hit them in Evergreen Pass near the train tracks. We will need the parachutes ready so that we can surprise them from above. Nadare nodded. My lord, why not wait for them to make it to the castle? Surely, they can't penetrate our defenses. I will not give shinobi, especially leaf shinobi, a chance to snoop around my castle. I am not proud enough to believe that we can keep them from infiltrating the castle. No, we will hit them where they are vulnerable and immobile. We will snatch the princess during the confusion and our forces should be sufficient to eliminate the Konoha group. Dodo answered confidently. And watch of the armored corps? Nadare asked. We will deploy them. We have 4 squads fitted with the first version of the armor. It is not as good as ours, but it will give them the advantage. Dodo answered. Now, get moving. We will move at first light. Evergreen Pass 1 p.m. next day. Naruto had just made it through the tunnel with the camera crew when he sensed the train moving in. He looked up on the hill and was able to sense the samurai waiting and he locked eyes with Guy's transformation in Team 9. He nodded slightly to them and flashed the hand signals for, train, coming, 5 minutes. Guy gave him a thumbs up and Naruto saw him informing the 100 or so samurai that were camouflaged in the snow. Naruto also communicated with Kurama, who had already sensed the incoming train due to the racket it made. Princess, it is about to go down. You will remain with me and the camera crew inside the barrier I erect. Do not panic, okay? Naruto. said calmly. Koyuki was inspired by his calming presence and nodded, "Thank you, Naruto. I appreciate what you are doing for my nation." Naruto cocked an eyebrow at her and shot her a wry smile. "Oh, thinking of it as your nation already." Koyuki answered his wry smile with one of her own. "How else will I be worthy of you?" Naruto suppressed his groan and he had to put in extra effort when he heard his girls giggling behind him. He coughed into his hand before answering Koyuki, "Look, princess, I am honored, but I already have 3 wives." Koyuki smiled innocently at him, "And you are going to be a daimyo, and last of your line at that. Surely you know the laws that are in place for such men." Her tone was sly and confident. Naruto fidgeted nervously before coughing into his hand again. "No, I can't say I do. Anyway, we can deal with that another time. Now, we need to get ready." Naruto then raised his voice and addressed the camera crew and created clones that were securing the camera harnesses. "All right, everyone, the battle is coming. Cameras up and stay cool. Remember, stay within 50 feet of me and nothing will happen to you. I will erect an invisible barrier and my team will deal with the fighting." "Yes, Lord Senju," was the response of many voices within the camera crew. Naruto sighed, he really hated the Lord nonsense. "All right, let's settle down here and make sure that there is enough distance between us and the railroad tracks." As the group was shuffling off the tracks and into a tree line of evergreen trees that Naruto grew, everyone heard the train horn echoing out of the tunnel. Naruto remembered how confused he was the first time he dealt with this, and he shook his head at the memories of all the samurai dying. He firmed his resolve to make sure that this wouldn't happen this time around. A yellow light illuminated the tunnel entrance and the train horn blared loudly as it exited the tunnel. Naruto was standing on the train tracks about 300 meters from the tunnel exit and the train's brakes screeched as the train came to a halt. He gave the signal with his hands and the samurai on either side of the train rose up and gave a battle cry as they began to charge. Naruto heard orders issued from within the train and the doors on the sides of the train all lowered and exposed kunai launchers that were pointed up and down the hill. Shinobi in chakra armor began to hop on top of the train and Naruto saw one of them swing his arm downward before volleys of kunai launched at high speeds toward the samurai. The air filled with iron as the kunais tore through the thin mountain air. The samurai on either side of the train halted and Naruto saw his squad step in front of them. With Team 9, Naruto's clone that was controlled by Chome erected a massive earthen dome that easily halted all inbound kunai. On the other side, Kurama stepped forward and erected a wall of intense flame that melted the snow on his side of the track and turned the kunai to slag. Show off. After the initial volleys were dealt with, the wall of stone and flame lowered and gave way to the samurai's charge. The train was being enclosed on both sides and the Konoha shinobi were now leading the charge. The shinobi on top of the train and within, along with the samurai of Snow Country, began to pour out to meet the charge. Naruto's sharp eyes were able to see about 15 individuals wearing chakra armor and he sent clones transformed as samurai to back up his allies. Kurama was mighty proud of his Kitsune technique, Flame Wall, and the results it gave. He was sure that it would prove to be an amazing cinematic. Now, he was charging alongside the humans, and he wanted to show off some more. He jumped into the air above the charge, and he spewed a volley of fireballs, much like the human jutsu, mythical fire flower. However, Kurama's fireballs were each the size of an Uchiha Great Fireball Jutsu. The results were devastating as fireballs plowed through walls of ice and melted them into puddles before they set nearly 30 samurai and a couple shinobi ablaze. Chome saw Kurama showing off and she decided to stick with the earth jutsu that she used earlier. She jumped into the air ahead of the samurai and used the earth style, heavy boulder JTUSU, to vastly increase her weight and harden her defenses, which was her specialty. She landed on the train in a mighty creak of steel as the train buckled in on itself before the ground under the train exploded in a shower of rock. The halves of the train were sent skidding away from the impact site and the enemy formation was in shambles. 1010 was like a squad of Marines on range day. She was letting loose accurate steel as she ran, and she was only sad that her opponents were so inferior. She bit back the remorse that was rising in her chest and kept the steel flying over the heads of her allies and into the enemy ranks. When Chome landed, she stopped her long-range assault, whistled in appreciation, and unsealed her katana to join the samurai charge. Guy was holding back his speed to make sure he wasn't too far ahead of the samurai charge. He saw a camera clone running alongside him and he locked eyes with it. As he closed within 50 feet of the shattered enemy formation, he let out a mighty battle cry that echoed around the mountains. The camera clone whistled in appreciation as Guy charged with his katana held high and disappeared in a blur of speed. Guy dodged through kunai and shuriken as he zipped in between enemy shinobi and samurai alike. His speed was godly as steel flashed only to be followed by spurts and gouts of blood moments later. Guy knew that what he was doing was necessary and the faster he dealt with the enemy, the fewer of his allied would die. Thus, he charged at 4 shinobi in bulkier versions of the chakra armor with zero hesitation. The camera clone knew that he was only a clone of his boss, but he was still impressed by the devastating speed and efficiency of Might Guy. It was honestly unfair to equip Guy with a proper sword because it made the insane speed completely lethal. The camera clone did its best to keep the camera trained on Guy, but it proved difficult. The clone simply kept the camera stable and caught as much of the raw and authentic footage as it could. During the charge, Neji was unleashing multi-shots of arrows at the enemies lined up along the train. His skill and technique with the bow shined as his arrows found their way around ice walls and into the skulls of his enemies. He counted at least 2 shinobi in chakra armor that met an early end due to high-speed arrows in their eye sockets. Now, as the ranks clashed against one another, Neji worked alongside Lee to cover his back from the many shinobi. This number exceeded what Naruto had told them and he was picking up newcomers to the battle. After a couple minutes of fighting, Neji noticed that shinobi were falling from the sky in parachutes. To make matters worse, they were throwing kunai with paper bombs on their way down. Neji took action immediately and he focused chakra to his hands before he began punching forward rapidly. He called out, 8 trigrams, successive gale palms, and sent waves of compressed air at the incoming kunai. As he kept at it, Neji shouted, enemy from above. Naruto sensed the enemy and he saw the kunai dropping from the air and he noticed the explosive tags on them. Each of Naruto's clones, Chome, Kurama and Shizuka created space in their battles, weaved through hand signs and sent powerful wind ninjutsu into the sky. The air was filled with a divine breakthrough, great breakthrough, gale palms, and massive fireballs from Kurama. The fireballs from Kurama fused with a couple of the wind jutsu and a screen of intense flame raced hundreds of feet into the air and melted or burned everything that it came in contact with. Naruto winced as the flames continued past the falling kunai and set men in parachutes ablaze. It was a morbid sight, watching burning men fall from the sky and slam into the ground. Naruto was sure that his clones were capturing it, but it was probably too gruesome to use in the film because nobody wants to think about burning alive. Regardless, the show must go on and the battle was still ongoing. Koyuki, or at least the Naruto clone transformed as Koyuki, wandered aimlessly down the railroad tracks with its hands clasped dramatically over its mouth. The camera clone, veiled in the chameleon jutsu, walked backwards ahead of it. Clone Koyuki let tears fall from its eyes and kept a faraway look on its face as it walked towards the battlefield. The emotional scene was interrupted by a big, metal claw that came down from the sky and secured the princess snugly in its claws. With a dramatic scream, Clone Koyuki was dragged into the sky and up into the blimp. The samurai were distracted by the feminine scream, and they roared out in surprise and anger as their princess was dragged up toward the blimp. The Konoha group had to work extra hard to prevent their deaths in the ongoing battle, but they did so, nonetheless. Kurama just pushed a samurai out of the way of a killing blow and caught the sword in his right hand. The blade melted into slag and Kurama punched a flame fist through the snow samurai's chest. He reveled in the bloody death and failed to suppress the pleased smirk that worked its way onto his face. Guy knew that Naruto's clone would be just fine, so he kept up his frantic pace. He was honestly surprised that so many men could fit into the train, and he grew tired of taking so many lives. He had sheathed his sword and he was now committed to incapacitating the snow shinobi and samurai alike. He left crumpled bodies in his wake before he caught a kunai that was headed for an ally and threw it back to its original owner on instinct. The blade sunk hilt deep into the center of the snow shinobi's head in between his eyes. Up in the air, the retractable claw was finished reeling the princess in, or so Dodo thought. He was waiting with a devilish smirk on his face along with Nadare at the point where the princess would be brought aboard. He was infuriated by the massive losses that he was taking, but with the princess, he would have access to the weapon that his brother, Sosetsu Kazuhana, left behind. Be ready, Nadare, once we have the amulet, we will head directly to the cache on Mount Freya. Nadare said through his smirk. Yes, my lord. I hope it is worth the lives lost today. Nadare said despondently. He couldn't believe the losses they were taking for his leader's obsession. Dodo scowled. This will be the greatest weapon ever made. My foolish brother invested so much of Snow Country's money into it for years before I killed him. That runaway princess held the key to unleashing it and now I will have it. Before Dodo could break into an evil laugh, the bay doors opened and Koyuki was wriggling within her bindings. The transformed Naruto clone put on its best performance, making a show of struggling. It really wanted to see the look on Dodo's face when his moment of victory was turned into defeat. Let me go, you bastard. Koyuki screamed as she kicked her legs. Dodo now let out his evil laugh. Foolish little girl. I will send you to meet your father once I have that pretty little necklace he gave you. Nadare moved forward and freed the princess from the claw before grabbing her by the scuff of her yukata. Don't struggle, princess. Play nice and we will treat you nice. The clone put on a confused look and glared at Dodo. Why do you want my pendant? My father gave it to me, and it is the only thing I have left from him. Dodo scowled. Ignorant girl, you don't even know what you hold. Your father built a weapon that would put Snow Country on top and he gave you the key. With that pendant, I will use that weapon to bring Snow Country to greatness. Dodo started chuckling evilly as Nadare pushed Koyuki to him. Oh, foolish uncle, traitors should just die. Koyuki was grinning devilishly before she headbutt Dodo. The already massive nose of Dodo was shattered by the blow and he stumbled backwards and fell into the wall of the bay. Before Dodo or Nadare could act, the princess made a hand sign and started glowing blue. As one of my old enemies used to say, art is an explosion. The visage of Koyuki glowed a brilliant blue before an explosion rocked the blimp that was hovering over the battlefield. Dodo and Nadare were nearly blown out of the blimp that was now billowing smoke as it wavered shakily in the sky. There were holes blown into the walls of the bay and the blimp's skeleton was showing on multiple spots. On the ground, the battle was pretty much over, and all eyes turned to the skies at the sight of the explosion. Some of the samurai fell to their knees in despair at the supposed death of the princess. At least, that was the case until the princess walked alongside Naruto and in front of the camera crew towards the gory remains of the battle. Koyuki winced in guilt and discomfort at the sight of dead men that were forced into a battle for no reason. She distracted herself by looking into the sky and watching the blimp limp away, back towards the castle. It left a smoke trail in the sky, and it looked like a bumpy ride as it made its way through the air. She pulled her eyes back down and looked at the bloody samurai and shinobi that were formed up in front of her. Behind her, Ino, Tamari and Samui took up their positions as her guards and attendants. She took a deep breath and remembered her lines and role as an actor. Koyuki firmed her gaze and addressed the men that risked their lives for her. Men, today we have won a great victory. She thrust her fist into the air and earned a victory shout from her men. Yes, they were her men now. I thank you for risking your lives for a valiant and just cause. You have fought alongside my hero's party and there is only one thing left to do. We will march. We will take the fight to the coward that has retreated to his castle to lick his wounds. We will win. And we will free the people from his unjust reign. The samurai had all gathered around and they were raising their swords and shouting at the top of their lungs. Their victory cry made for an inspiring scene and Kurama stepped forward from the samurai formation and took a knee in front of Naruto and Koyuki. My lord and lady, we have brought victory to you this day. It is my honor to serve you and we will free the people of Snow Mountain and bring peace to these lands under your just rule. Kurama bowed his head in an honorable and dignified way. Naruto stepped forward and put a hand on his shoulder. Rise, Ambrose, my fire mage. Your contributions on this day will not go unrewarded. Naruto then looked out over the samurai and spoke in a bold tone. Men, let us tend to the wounded, secure our prisoners and prepare for the battle to come. The coward has retreated to his castle and the time for Our Lady's reign draws near. Another roar from the samurai, accompanied by a rattle of swords, answered Naruto's call. The fall of Dodo. Holy shit, Ruto, I didn't think we could pull that off, but it turned out to be totally epic. Ten shouted excitedly in the main tent as the group reviewed footage of the battle. Indeed, while many lives were lost in making this, it was a most youthful battle. Plus, we get to fight for the fiery flames of youth in honor of Princess Koyuki. Lee said animatedly. Neji sighed. Lee, too many lives were lost for that statement. Those men were following the orders of their leader. It is tragic that they died for such a frivolous cause. Lee's attitude sobered and Naruto put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. You did nothing wrong, Lee. You are right, we are fighting for a just cause. That being said, Neji is also right and it is regrettable that so many had to die today. Says the man that turned a real battle into a movie, Ino taunted. Naruto sighed. Yeah, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I didn't expect them to send so many though. Temari embraced Naruto from behind and rested her chin on his shoulder. It will be alright, Ruto. It is a sad truth that those men chose their side. They died pointless deaths fighting for an evil man. That is not your fault. If you didn't step in, then Sandayu would have lost more than 5 of his men. They all would have been dead. Naruto nodded tiredly. Yeah, you're right. Well, I hope that nobody else needs to die, except Dodo and that Nadare guy. Sandayu spoke up. We are grateful for your assistance. I know it doesn't alleviate all of the death, but we managed to capture 43 of their men. If they are willing to change their ways, that is 43 people that could support Koyuki in her reign. Naruto nodded. What was the final count of the fallen? I honestly didn't expect them to send so many. 156 enemy fell at our blades. Sandayu answered. Kurama let out a low whistle. Wow, how did they fit that many people in that tiny train? Naruto shrugged and yawned. Doesn't matter. Everyone, get some rest. We will be moving out in the morning. Naruto awoke the next morning with the rising sun and walked through the camp. He saw samurai strapping on their armor, polishing their swords and doing final checks on their equipment. He got smiles, nods and salutes with hands over hearts as he walked through the camp. It was a surreal feeling leading men like this into battle. Men he had met less than a week ago, but they were men that trusted him implicitly with their lives. It was a strange sensation for the blonde hero, but he felt strangely comfortable with the responsibility. Naruto saw Kurama swapping stories over breakfast with a couple of the samurai and Naruto slid into the conversation. The samurai were commenting on Kurama's red cloak and traveling robe that made him look more like a wizard than a warrior. Kurama was laughing and informed the men that it was his role in Naruto's movie. It was difficult for the serious and traditional samurai to swallow the fact that a movie was being shot as they fought on the field of battle. Well, my good men, if my partner and I were to get serious, then you would have no opportunity to fight for your own freedom. Tell me, my good fellows, would your sense of honor allow such a thing? Kurama had ceased his laughter and asked the serious question. The men's heads fell, and they all looked into the fire before one of them got serious and answered Kurama's question. Lord Kurama, I understand where you are coming from. I am grateful for the opportunity to right the wrongs done by Dodo. I served Lord Sosetsu Kazuhana in my youth and it was always one of my greatest regrets that we failed in our duty. Kurama nodding understandingly and the man's eyes gained a fire that emitted from the depth of his soul. Now, I finally have the opportunity to cleanse my soul of my past failure. You are right, I would not be okay with foreigners handling everything. I am grateful to fight alongside you, acting or not. Kurama smirked and put a hand on the middle-aged samurai's shoulder. Take heart, my friend. By the end of the day, your ledger will be clear, and you will be serving the proper ruler of Snow Country. Don't you mean Snow Mountain? One of the samurai joked and earned a round of chuckles from those gathered around the fire. Hey, I wrote the book, and I took inspiration from Snow Country. I thought the name fit. Naruto entered the conversation with a pout. The samurai all bowed their heads before one spoke up. Lord Senju, when you wrote this book, how did you get the inspiration? It is honestly scary how well it fits into our current situation. Naruto chuckled. Well, I was learning about all of the countries in the elemental nations when I was a kid and I started writing this book when I was 10. When I read about the coup in Dodo's reign, I thought he would make a good villain with his advanced technology. Then, all I had to do was write in the Lost Princess of Snow Country. I guess fate has a sense of humor because said princess came looking for me a couple years after I published the book. The samurai chuckled before the oldest of them stood up. Well, Lord Senju, it would appear that it was fated by Lady Camy. I pray that we meet good fortune like the men of your novel." This statement earned a round of cheers. The rebel forces surrounded the camera crew and moved out around 9 a.m. They had 5 miles to the fort, and it would be a long day of trekking through the snow to get there. As the caravan was traveling, Team 9 and a Naruto clone went ahead to scout the castle and get a better idea of troop formations. This left Naruto and his girls to protect the camera crew and samurai. During the walk, Naruto was in an animated conversation with Sandayu, Claude, Koyuki and his girls. "Do you really need the fort? I don't think it is a good place to reign from." Naruto was pouting since they were trying to talk him out of destroying the fort. Koyuki agreed with Naruto, "I agree, I do not wish to rule from some military base. From the pictures, the base is barbaric and serves no purpose other than war. But milady, if we destroy the base, then where will we fall back to in the event of invasion?" Sandayu said. Koyuki scoffed, "If we are threatened with invasion, we will call on the services of Lord Senju." Tamari couldn't help but enter the conversation. "Yeah, you could do that, or you could raise your own shinobi force and properly defend yourself. I am sure Ruto would be willing to help, but it is important for any nation to be self-sufficient." Koyuki hung her head and Sandayu came to her defense. "We will be self-sufficient, but it will take us a while to recover. Dodo has drained the people and resources of this land substantially. Naruto decided to solve the problem. What if I build you a new city? I can erect a city out of wood that you would only need to furbish and do the more advanced plumbing and electrical." Claude was a foreign film director, but he couldn't believe such a thing. "My lord, I admit that you are powerful, but surely you are jesting." Claude's jaw proceeded to fall as Naruto weaved through hand seals, jumped to the side of the road and erected a 3-story mansion in less than a minute. The wood looked regal and the building itself was elegant. Through practice and repeat use, Naruto had developed his wooden constructs to match the finest artisans. Naruto jumped back to the group with a laugh at the dumbstruck looks of the caravan. He landed and cocked an eyebrow at Claude and Sandayu. "Well, drop the damned castle. I want a house like that," Koyuki said animatedly, making the decision for Sandayu. Claude coughed to clear his throat and snap himself back to reality. "Well, if we are going to do this, then we should get shots from every angle. Also, to fit the book, how do you plan on sacking the castle?" Naruto laughed. "Right, well, in the book there was a battle. We will have to film that after the fact, unless they refuse to surrender. Also, in the book, it was Dodo that self-destructed the castle. If we want to change that." Naruto adopted a pensive look. Ino, being the biggest fan of the books in the Senju family, chimed in, "Why don't we say that after the princess was rescued, that the hero was enraged by her treatment? This awoke the demon in him, and he ordered his party to bring the castle down." Claude was nodding animatedly. Yes, that could work. "So, what, jutsus, is that the word for it? What jutsus will you use to bring it down?" Naruto shrugged. "We have earth, wind, fire and water specialists. What do you think would look best on camera?" Kurama shouted, "Fire, obviously." Tamari scoffed, "It should be a windstorm." Ino was contemplative. "Well, the hero's mage is a fire type. The hero himself is a wind mage and swordsman. The princess is supposed to be gifted with water. The party also has earth magic, so why don't we use all of those?" Claude raised an eyebrow. "Care to elaborate?" Ino thought it out and answered, "Start with a fire attack powered by a wind jutsu. Then, Tamari can perform her sickle weasel storm and we will add water and fire to that for cinematic effect. Really makes me wish we had a lightning user." Samui cleared her throat and put her hands on her hips. "Did everyone just up and forget about me? I mean, come on, I have been part of the family for over a year now." Naruto chuckled sheepishly, "Must be the cold getting to my brain. Okay, so we evacuate, open with a volley of fire and then do a multi-elemental storm. While that is happening, I will use some earth jutsu to bring down the fort and drop it into the gorge." Kurama clapped his hands together and wringed them excitedly. "Oh, I can't wait. So, we want the explosive stuff for the opening act, right?" Naruto nodded. "I think that would be the flashiest. What will you add to the storm though?" Kurama chuckled evilly. "Oh, I may hate Madara, but that majestic flame annihilation was a badass move. When it gets added to the tornadoes, it should be quite the sight." Samui was looking thoughtful. "Ruto, I don't have a jutsu that could match up to that." What if I powered you up with Q's chakra and you overcharged an electromagnetic murder? Naruto asked. Samui pouted, that's what I was thinking, but that would go through the ground. It wouldn't be that flashy. Tamari laughed, yeah, that is until it rips through the walls of the fort. Plus, wind and lightning never mixed very well anyways. Chome giggled, clicked within Naruto's seal, your mates are wild, Naruto. I enjoy them greatly. I can't wait to see the show. 5 hours later, Dodo scowled as he looked down upon the insurgents that stood outside his castle walls. It was embarrassing enough that he had burns on his face and a broken nose from the exploding clone that he brought into his blimp. It was galling to look at the crippled frame of the once majestic blimp. He was further enraged by the loss of 200 men. All in all, Dodo was beyond pissed off and he wanted to rain down death on the intruders that were in formation at the base of the hill in front of his castle. He was on the castle wall with the remainder of his forces, roughly 300 men. He only had a handful of shinobi remaining. And the rest were the samurai sort, although they were weaker than those that he had sent to Evergreen Pass. Regardless, his castle had a multitude of kunai launchers, catapults and other defensive items that would make a head-on charge suicide for the attacking force. Plus, there was only one narrow pathway up to the castle. Dodo scowled as he listened to the projected voice of the Konoha shinobi. Dodo, your foul reign ends today. Your unjust regime will no longer be tolerated. I represent Princess Koyuki Kazuhana, daughter of Sosetsu Kazuhana, the brother you murdered to usurp the throne. Surrender now and your men's lives will be spared. Dodo couldn't help himself, he barked out an evil laugh that echoed around the mountains. The sun was beginning its descent behind the mountain peaks and filled the valley in a reddish-orange light. Intruders, you are not welcome in Snow Country. Hand over the princess and leave these lands or your lives are forfeit. Naruto sighed and looked toward Kurama. Hey, Q, I sense that the top of the tower has been evacuated. Think your fireball could reach there if I gave it some wind? Kurama chuckled, it would be my pleasure, Ruto. Dodo saw two individuals step forward and they rose above the formation on an earthen pillar. The pillar of earth rose higher than the mountain outpost and then Dodo's eyes widened as a chakra surge preceded a fireball that was empowered by a wind jutsu. The massive and potent fireball glowed white-hot as it sailed over Dodo's head. Dodo was frozen in panic despite the heat licking at his neck and melting the snow and ice that covered the lower portion of the castle. Dodo ignored the shouts of panic as the fireball impacted with the top of his castle and he brought his hands in front of his face as the fireball exploded in a fearsome display of fire and power. After Dodo lowered his arms and recovered from the blast, his jaw hung open as the top third of his castle was obliterated and the walls below were melted. He watched as chunks of heated stone and flickers of fire descended from the peak of the castle. He was broken from his state of stunned disbelief at the sound of the front gate being lowered. He roared in anger and frustration as some of his men were walking down the hill with their hands held up over their heads. Dodo jumped into action and began weaving hand seals. Traitors would die, that is the only punishment fit for them. Dodo finished his seals and called out, Ice style, Black Ice Dragon. The black dragon made of ice weaved around Dodo's form before it roared and sailed toward the traitors below. His sick satisfaction was shattered when a wooden wall rose in front of the black dragon and absorbed the impact of the powerful ice jutsu. Naruto wasn't surprised to see the surrendering forces, that was why he put on the show with Kurama. He was surprised by the act of anger and desperation by Dodo though, but that didn't stop him from protecting them from the ice dragon. He remembered that jutsu, but this time around he wasn't intimidated by it. Naruto appeared amidst the snow forces and erected two wood walls that rose in a half-sphere over them and halted the ice dragon's assault. Go, keep your hands up and surrender to the samurai. You made the right choice and I promise you fair treatment upon your surrender. Naruto said firmly to the stunned men that now surrounded him. Thank you. One of the men said before running down the narrow path with his hands waving wildly above him. Naruto lowered the wall and glared at Dodo. You who remain in the castle, do you wish to serve such a tyrant? Do you value your lives so little that you would lay them down to protect a usurper that killed his own brother? I offer you one more chance to stand down and surrender. If you refuse this offer, the only thing that awaits you this day is death. Naruto's voice carried over the walls and down the mountain. Naruto heard shouting, conflict and other signs of battle echoing from within the walls, and he restrained himself from vaulting over the walls and throwing himself into the melee. However, he did jump in front of the 15 or so men that were running away from their own allies as they ran down the narrow path. He was forced to protect them and block a volley of knife-shaped icicles that rained down from the ramparts. He fought a defensive battle as he backed down the slope, and he was soon joined by his party. "Give them hell, guys," Naruto growled out. He was frustrated with the stupidity of Dodo and his men, and he was ready to break them now. Temari unsealed her big battle fan and opened it to 5 sickles before beginning her dance. As she was spinning, Ino and Kurama flipped through hand signs for their fire techniques. Simultaneously, Samui joined them and was amassing chakra for her electromagnetic murder technique. Temari completed her dance that she used as a substitute for hand signs, and she leveled her glowing fan perpendicular to the ground before she unleashed a massive tornado upon the fortress. The tornado started parallel to the ground as it raced out of her fan, and it turned vertically into the air before forming a tornado nearly 300 feet tall and 150 feet wide. Kurama and Ino let out their fire techniques that merged with the tornado. Naruto added water jutsu, water style, raging storm, to the mix, and the results were terrifying. The fire boiled the water turned to steam and joined the fray. The winds whipped blades and globs of water at high speed around in a frenzy. The maelstrom that ensued crashed into the walls of the fortress and decimated ice walls that were erected by the remaining shinobi. As the tornado crashed into the walls, lightning ran up the narrow path and exploded as it impacted the gate. The gate shattered into splinters under its influence, and fire found a new entrance into the fort's courtyard. The storm held its shape as Temari kept chakra pouring into the technique, and the violent maelstrom was nearly self-sustaining as the jutsu tore the walls asunder. After contributing the water jutsu, Naruto disappeared from the path of approach and flashed into GSM. He gathered an abundant amount of chakra and infused the ground around the fort and into the walls of the gorge. Naruto kept his eyes closed and his concentration on the earth as he weaved calmly through hand seals before he placed his hands on the frozen earth. Moments later, a massive earth dragon nearly 800 feet long and 90 feet wide rose up from behind the base, climbed into the air nearly 900 feet before it dove headfirst into the man-made construct that was formed on the edge of a gorge. The colossal sound roared over the canyon as every eye watched the godly display in stunned amazement that was saturated with fear. The back half of the base crumpled as the ground from below gave out, and then the dragon finished the job by ripping the fort in half and plunging massive volumes of earth into the canyon. The result, the back half of the base that wasn't torn to shreds crumpled down the wall of the gorge in a massive and noisy mudslide. As the storm assaulted the base front to front and the earth dragon tore it asunder from the back, Koyuki and her loyal samurai watched on in amazement, and the film director nearly jazzed in his pants. Every camera was active in capturing the godly display while the cameramen did their best to stay steady after their jaws clattered on the ground. It took just under 7 minutes for the terrifying display of power to halt abruptly, which left an eerie silence over the valley. Dodo rose out of the command room that he had reinforced with ice jutsu with Nadare and a few of his loyal followers at his side. His shoulders slumped and his mind blanked when he saw the devastation that used to be his fortress. The front walls were shattered, the back half of the base now gave way to a full view of the gorge, and his remaining forces were in shambles. Of the 250 men he had at the beginning of the day, there were fewer than 20 men remaining as they stumbled around shattered remains of the base. Then, Dodo saw 2 men leading the charge of samurai and Konoha shinobi into the fortress, and he decided that it would be better to flee and survive another day. He saw one of the men carrying some contraption while the redhead in a strange uniform glared right at him as he ran up. Before Dodo's wings even expanded, the redhead launched himself into the air and shot a fireball at Dodo. Dodo smirked and held his hands out in front of him and absorbed the chakra of the jutsu. Despite the chakra absorption, he grew hot, and his hands burned. His armor blared a warning ping that it was over capacity on chakra. Seeing that he couldn't break away without vanquishing this intruder, Dodo rerouted the overloaded chakra armor and shouted, "Twin Black Ice Dragons." As Kurama was falling through the air, the Black Ice Dragons roared and readied themselves to intercept the falling Kitsune. Kurama smirked devilishly and took a deep breath before a wave of dark red fire escaped his lips and rushed to meet its challengers. The intense flames crashed against the black dragons and every Konoha ninja was surprised to see how long the stalemate lasted before the flames finally ate the dragons away. Despite the momentary victory, Kurama was enraged to see that his jutsu was halted. Kurama's descent was completed and as soon as his feet touched the ground, he coated his body in fire before dashing towards Dodo. A crimson fist embedded itself in his gut, but his premium chakra armor absorbed the chakra on the fist and rerouted the chakra to heal him. Dodo recovered quickly from the blow and lashed out with a spin kick into an uppercut. Kurama scoffed as he easily dodged the attack, and he elongated his claws before he set into his rampaging fox taijutsu style. Dodo squared off against Kurama and engaged him in a fearsome taijutsu battle that he was clearly losing. Sure, his chakra armor absorbed most of the impact and kept him in the fight, but he had yet to land a decisive blow on the red-headed opponent. Dodo decided to change strategy after a couple minutes and leapt back onto a pile of rubble before ice needles formed in the air and rushed toward Kurama. Kurama countered with a wall of flame that evaporated the icicles, and through the wall of flame a volley of superheated fireballs rushed toward Dodo. Dodo panicked as his armor began ringing the alarm as the core overheated. It was unbelievable that each jutsu was able to overload his armor, and the repeated overloading was really stressing the core. Dodo immediately released the chakra by creating an ice storm around him. He noticed that it was thinner than normal because the dammable fire jutsus were melting the ice around the base. He clicked his teeth and sent the ice storm toward Kurama, who simply used a majestic flame destroyer. The flame spread 180 degrees out of Kurama's mouth and easily melted the impromptu blizzard as well as the surrounding snow. He idly noted that he caught two unsuspecting samurai in the fiery blast, and he also made a note to no longer use area of effect jutsu because his allies were entering the fort now. After dealing with the blizzard, Kurama scowled as Dodo flew into the sky. The coward was retreating, and Kurama was denied his kill. Kurama turned to the camera clone. Damned coward, I shouldn't be surprised that such a man retreated. Oh well, Lord Naru will be the one to handle him now. The Naruto clone made a cut signal with his hand and smirked at Kurama, thanks for holding back. If you cut loose, then our friends would have been caught in the collateral damage. Kurama clicked his teeth, sure thing, Ruto. That was supposed to be your fight anyway. I just wanted to punish the coward for attacking his own men when they surrendered. Naruto paused and looked toward the far side of the base. Well, looks like the boss got revenge for Naru's sensei's death. The clone had a devilish smirk on his face. Kurama belted out a laugh. How much did he play with that fool before ending it? The clone shrugged, dunno. I could sense it, but I was more focused on your battle. With the real Naruto, he had his target and he needed this for the movie scene. It would be really hard to get another shot like this with all of the genuine destruction and chaos in the background. He saw Nadare running away from Kurama's flame attacks, and he caught him as he was running up an external staircase toward what remained of the castle. The uneven ground was the destined place for the fight as Naruto appeared in front of Nadare and planted him into the wall with a chakra-reinforced fist. Nadare shook off the cobwebs and held up one hand, the only remaining hand he had, while the fresh nub of the other forearm was held down. Damned leaf demon, you ruined everything. Naruto fixed his face into a visage of rage, and he slowly unsheathed the katana from his back as he glared at Nadare. In a low growl he said, and you killed my sensei. You robbed me of the man that saved me and brought purpose back to my life. With his sword, I will send you to the underworld. The low and menacing tone sent shivers up Nadare's spine, and Naruto hoped it would have the same effect on his future audience. Nadare broke out into a sick cackle of laughter before saying, that is the best news I have heard all day. The fool that took my arm is dead. Gahey. Naruto snarled and lunged forward, restricting his speed so that the cameras could capture his movements. Nadare blocked the first strike, howled at pain at the second strike that lanced across his abdomen, and gurgled as the third strike severed his neck and caused blood to pour out of his throat and mouth. Naruto put the long katana into the ground and bowed his head. Rest is peace, sensei. End cut. Damn, boss. That was hardcore. It gave me the shivers. Naruto's camera clone said. Naruto immediately snapped out of it and shot a smile at his clone. Did it? Good, that was what I was going for. This will fit right into the movie as well. Kurama appeared by Naruto's side. Hey, Kit, the flying prick got away. Naruto shrugged, this isn't a big country. I can find him easy enough and I already have an idea of where he will go. Kurama chuckled and shook his head, yeah, not your first rodeo, Naruto laughed briefly at that, haha, yeah, I have my advantages. Did you have a fun fight? Kurama growled, that damned armor absorbed my attacks. It is a truly marvelous invention, but I could tell I was burning him through the armor, so I will call it even. Looks like things are wrapping up down there, was there another scene needed? Naruto sighed, yeah, we gotta do the victory scene, which means another speech. Shit. Snow Mountain, one night after sacking Dodo's fort. The capture and cleanup of Dodo's remaining forces went smoothly after the fall of Nadare and Dodo's escape. Princess Koyuki helped Naruto with the victory address and then the cleanup began. It was an extremely one-sided affair, and the good guys didn't lose a single man during the assault. The medics were busy tending to wounded throughout the night, but they did so from the comfort of a warm wooden lodge that Naruto constructed for them. The following day, Sandaiu performed cleanup and search operations and salvaged what they could from the castle. Naruto and the Konoha contingent focused on building a temporary base and stabilizing the situation. By afternoon, Naruto was ready to search for the traitor and get the culminating scene of the movie out of the way. He hoped Dodo wouldn't ruin it by spouting off at the mouth, but even if he did, a quick clone transformation could give him the scene he wanted. After a brief round of meditation, Naruto honed in on a particularly intense bundle of hate, anger and frustration. It stuck out like a beacon, and he informed the group that Dodo was waiting for them on Snow Mountain. He probably thinks that the princess will go there to claim what her father left her. Sandaiu shared his thoughts with the group. Tamari scoffed, what a fool. As if he could surprise us and take it for himself. The foolish man is one who indulges in pride and revels in the pain and oppression of the less fortunate. Koyuki whispered under her breath. Such a man is blind to the world around him and is unable to see the truth. Naruto cocked his head at the princess, good quote, who came up with it. Koyuki turned her eyes to the ground and fought back tears. My father. Naruto put a comforting hand on her shoulder, well, your father was a wise man. Regardless, if he thinks he can ambush us, then he is sorely mistaken. What do you say to confronting him, wrapping this whole mess up and getting the inheritance your father left behind for you? Koyuki's eyes sparkled with unshed tears as she looked into the deep azure depths of Naruto. She nodded with a small smile on her face, let's do it. The journey to Snow Mountain went quickly since it was just the Konoha group and Naruto carried Koyuki. He knew that she needed to be there to get closure, and he also needed this scene in the movie. It was such a monumental event of his previous life, and he wrote it as the capstone of his first book. Setting aside his qualms of using such a personal event for the sake of a movie, Naruto blurred across the snowy terrain and was able to reach the base of Snow Mountain at 5 p.m. By the time they cleared the peak into the flat top of the mountain, it was 6 p.m. and the sun was beginning his descent into the shadows of the night. The group slowly approached 3 black monoliths with engravings that rose out of the mountain nearly 100 feet apiece. In between the 3 monoliths, there appeared to be a console of sorts, and the group approached the console. They had all been warned that Dodo was waiting behind one of the monoliths, but Naruto wanted to spring this trap and get his scene. As they were 50 feet away, the ice gave out under the Konoha group, but the layer of ice was immediately replaced by a wooden platform that caught the group. After thwarting Dodo's first trap, the man appeared from around the base of the left monolith. He glared at the group and held out his hand, as if expecting something. Give me the amulet and I will allow you and the princess to escape with your lives. This is the final offer of mercy I will give you. Dodo said in false bravado. The whole Konoha group laughed, but Naruto stepped forward. Dodo, you are a delusional and vile cretin of a man. You believe you could best my party. Naruto raised an incredulous eyebrow into his hairline. He couldn't believe how delusional this man was. Dodo barked out an evil laugh. Ask Red there, I was able to absorb his most powerful jutsu. I am wearing the newest and best model of the chakra armor. There is nothing you can do to me. Koyuki took charge here, you are nothing but an evil man that stole from the people of my country after usurping the throne. My hero and his party will vanquish you and we will bring Snow Mountain into an age of prosperity. Before Dodo could spout off and ruin the scene, Naruto stepped forward. He made a show of handing his cloak off to Neji before he turned and faced Dodo. Dodo, I, Narumaki, challenge you to single combat. If you can best me, we will hand over the amulet. Dodo scoffed at that, and if you best me. Naruto chuckled in a gallant way, then you will be dead, and Snow Mountain will be cleansed of your taint. Dodo growled at the insult, but he puffed his chest out and shouted, very well, I accept your challenge. Naruto turned and locked eyes with Koyuki briefly. The way her eyes sparkled in the sunset was something special and unique. He leaned down and placed a passionate kiss on her lips. He felt the twinge of jealousy from his girls, and he suppressed the bite of remorse from showing on his face. After breaking the lip lock, he brushed a caring thumb across her cheek and turned to face Dodo. Let's do this. Naruto growled before dashing toward Dodo. Dodo launched the first attack by blowing a giant and sharp icicle out of his mouth. Naruto countered this by dodging to the side and severing it down the middle by a swing of his wind-coated katana. He maintained his speed and closed the remaining distance to Dodo. He was mildly surprised when the dual ice swords stopped his katana, but Naruto didn't hesitate. He launched into his Whirling Tides Kenjutsu style and showed off for the cameras. It was a beautiful dance and a mesmerizing display of Kenjutsu that chipped away at the ice blades and dented the chakra armor. Every time the katana clashed against the chakra armor, the chakra absorbed the chakra coating, but Naruto immediately replenished the wind chakra. Dodo was being pressed as quickly realized that he would not win a Kenjutsu battle. He ducked under a horizontal slash and dashed away from Naruto to create space. Dodo used the break to weave through hand signs and the snow on the mountain peak rose into the air. Dodo called out, "Ice style, violent blizzard," and turned the mountain peak into a fearsome winter storm that had ice shards flying around like millions of blades. Naruto answered this by sinking into the ground. He had already sensed that the others were protected by a barrier, so he didn't have to worry about them any longer. After a minute, Naruto rose from the ground and cast a wind style, divine breakthrough, at Dodo. The wind blew away the impromptu winter storm and slammed into Dodo's position in a roar of ice, wind and stone. As the dust cleared, Dodo was standing with his arms crossed protectively in front of his face and his armor appeared to be glowing. Dodo finished his hands signed and called out, "Ice style, twin black dragons." Two dragons made of black ice formed around Dodo and roared as they charged towards Naruto. Naruto answered with two earth dragons of his own, knowing that the earth dragons would likely lose. Sure enough, after a brief and violent clash midair, the ice dragons won out and slammed into Naruto, who skidded back towards his group and lay flat on his back. Koyuki screamed out with her hands clutched over her mouth and tears trickling down her eyes. "Naru, my love." The desperation in her voice rang true to all those on the mountain. Naruto staggered to his feet and wiped the blood from his forehead. "Don't worry, my love. I will not lose to such a man. It is time I call on the power of your lands." Naruto rose to his feet, laughing internally at the fact that he had to take a hit from such a jutsu. Sure, it was strong, but it would never be enough to lay him out. He closed his eyes and called on the natural energy of the earth. He simultaneously pulled on Kurama's chakra and flashed into KSM. It was an on-the-fly decision, but he figured it would look cool in the movie. The camera caught the serious look on Naruto's face as his golden form appeared like a beacon in the setting sun. Naruto easily dealt with the next ice dragon that Dodo sent his way by countering with a much larger earth dragon. This time, he focused on maintaining the chakra in the technique and the senjutsu-empowered earth dragon decimated the ice dragon midair. He let the technique crash into Dodo's position and he disappeared in a golden blur. Dodo landed from his dodge and looked around for his opponent. By the time he located Naruto above him, it was far too late to dodge or counter. Dodo raised his arms defensively in front of his chest and he braced himself against the mighty jutsu. Naruto roared out, "Rasengan," as he thrust the bright orange Rasengan at Dodo. The swirling ball of hyper-dense chakra tore through Dodo's arms like a kid through wrapping paper. The jutsu continued undeterred by the draining effects of the chakra armor and it ripped through Dodo's chest. Naruto let the Rasengan destabilize and hopped back a safe distance. The orange and golden explosion of chakra light illuminated the mountain peak in the fading light. The jutsu left a 40-foot crater in the base of the peak near the monoliths and Naruto made a show of huffing and puffing. He let the chakra cloak fade because he needed to at least act like it was an intense battle. His party ran up and joined him as they moved forward slowly to confirm Dodo's death. Once Dodo's death was confirmed, the group stood behind Naruto and the princess as the scene played out. Koyuki embraced Naruto in a passionate hug and cried over his injuries. Naruto comforted her by rubbing her back before separating and looking into her eyes. He rubbed the tears off of her cheeks and gave her a magnificent smile. "It is over, my love," he said weakly, as if he were tired. Koyuki sniffled and stifled her tears. "Yes, Naru, it is over. You were victorious, my hero. The forces of heaven and hell combined would never be enough to stop me from returning to your embrace." Naruto answered in a soft, yet husky, tone. "Shut up and kiss me," Koyuki said before lunging forward and claiming Naruto's lips in a passionate kiss. Naruto took control of the kiss and poured a decent amount of passion and chakra into the act. Unfortunately, Koyuki wasn't ready for the tingling of the senjutsu chakra, the amorous lip lock nor the chakra-coated touch of Naruto's hands as they traced down her sides. She shivered visibly and her legs gave out as the honorable princess of Snow Country had an orgasm on camera. Naruto suppressed his laughter and caught her in his arms before she could slump to the ground. Ino watched on with a massive fit of jealousy. Sure, that was the idea behind this scene. This scene was to be the first glimpse of the passion between the princess and hero. It was designed to soak the panties of every woman in the elemental nations, and it may have worked too well. If she was this jealous from just watching the two kiss, then how would she tolerate the love-making scene that would be shot later? Ino shook off her jealousy and decided to enjoy the show. She giggled as she watched Koyuki give into the pleasure of the kiss until Temari nudged her in the side. For Temari's part, she was on the same page as Ino. She had loved Ruto and only Ruto for her whole life. Sure, she had some memories of the previous life, but those weren't truly her own. This was her man, and she was already sharing him with two admittedly amazing women. She suppressed the growl that wanted to escape her throat and plastered a smile on her face. Up in Camy's realm, she went from giggling like a schoolgirl at the show Naruto played out to blowing up and recreating the TV 3 times in less than 10 seconds. Minato and Kushina stifled their giggles and focused on safeguarding their thoughts. Camy had grown quite temperamental recently. Whenever Naruto was doing something good, she was happy and content, which made her realm glow. When Naruto was acting flirtatiously with Koyuki, rapid onset storms erupted in her realm. It was a fickle situation and Camy's feelings were probably the worst kept secret in her realm. Back on Snow Mountain, Koyuki was putting her amulet into a groove on the console in between the monoliths. A hum began emanating out of the monoliths and a warmth flooded the mountain peak. After a minute, the console flashed with seals and markings before a holographic image appeared in between two of the monoliths. Koyuki had sparkling tears flowing freely as she watched the final message from her father. The whole group watched in reverent silence as the scene of a little girl talking to her father played out in holographic form. The camera captured the moments and focused in on the princess, who was being embraced supportively from behind by Naruto. It was a touching moment as the girly voice of Koyuki proclaimed that she wanted to be an actor to bring joy to the people of her country. As the hologram faded, as respectful silence settled over the group, and everyone waited for Koyuki to speak. "Thank you, Naru, thank you for all of this," she whispered as she pulled his hands tighter around her. Naruto rested his chin on top of her head. "This is just the beginning, my love." Koyuki's head fell back into his chest and the two enjoyed a comfortable silence. Lee, playing a part of the hero's party, stepped forward. "My lord, these monoliths are warming the surrounding area and melting the snow. It has almost completely melted the snow around Snow Mountain." This broke Koyuki out of her trance and she looked around the peak of the mountain. Sure enough, the snow there was now water and the ice that covered the lake was cracking and giving way to icy waters. She looked around as she walked to the edge of the basin that served as the mountain peaked and she gasped when she saw the landscape melting and thawing out. He father's creation was going to bring life to Snow Country. A steamy second chance at life and love. It took 2 weeks to clean up the remains of the fort, march to the capital and announce the return of Princess Koyuki Kazuhana. The announcement was met with happiness from her people and their happiness was enhanced by the thawing of Snow Country. As Naruto went, he created orchards, farms and housing for the people they encountered. He didn't charge the princess for his efforts, everything was pro bono because he wanted to help the people of Snow Country. New and fancy wooden houses lined the streets of villages and new forests emerged that provided shelter for new life to take roots in the recently thawed landscape. As they entered the capital, news had already reached, and the fanfare was next level. White banners and winter-themed decorations filled the streets and there were many people that were elated by the return of the princess. The Konoha group accompanied her the whole way, along with the samurai that helped her reclaim her throne. 2 weeks after the fall of Dodo, Koyuki addressed her people after being sworn in as the new daimyo of Snow Country. My people, I thank you for the warm welcome into the capital. It is good to be home once more. Before I share my plans with you, I wish to inform you that it was Konoha and the Senju family that aided me in freeing our country from Dodo. It was Naruto Senju that has been building new homes and farms for our people. It was Sandaiu and the samurai loyal to my father that inspired me to fight for my home and country. I thank all of these people from the bottom of my heart. Koyuki turned and bowed to her entourage, which earned a massive cheer from the collection of citizens. She turned back to address her populace. Moving forward, I am putting forth legislation to change our name. It is time for us to move into the warmth of the future. In honor of this change, I wish to rename our country into Spring Country. I wish to use our technology to bring prosperity to my people. I wish to join our new allies in a peaceful and prosperous future. Koyuki's address continued for a bit after that before the group was moved into the daimyo's castle. Naruto flashed Team Guy back to Konoha and let Guy handle the verbal report. He still had a month of filming to do, and he wanted some time to help rebuild Spring Country. This embedded him into the good graces of the people and made the subsequent treaty a given. Naruto's biggest issue was finding a realistic and reasonable way to decline the marriage proposal that was embedded into the treaty. He really didn't want to deal with Camy's wrath, and he couldn't fathom how bad his punishment would be this time around. That thought leads to 3 weeks later when it was finally time for Koyuki and Naruto to shoot the steamy scene. The girls had negotiated almost every aspect of this scene and Naruto made it clear that they had final say. Ultimately, Naruto would be stripped naked during the scene and Koyuki would she some skimpy nightwear. Naked bodies clashing was inevitable and the only thing separating them would be some flesh-colored fabric on her womanhood. Koyuki's favorite movie scene. The princess and her party left the ship they used to travel across the oceans, and she took her first tentative step into her home country. Naru came up behind her and wrapped her in a tender embrace. His warmth offered her the strength to take the next step and she took his hand as she followed the samurai general to their lodgings. The scene fades to show the two sharing a dinner for two on a bare rug in front of the fireplace. Naru, I am scared, Akari said sheepishly while looking down at the bare rug. Naru moved the plates aside and cradled her face with his right hand. He answered her fear by tenderly stroking her cheek. Don't fear, my love. There is nothing in this world that can stop me from finding my way back to you. Akari looked up with watery eyes that glistened in the firelight. The fear of losing Naru caused twitches of anticipation and she spoke softly once more as she leaned into the embrace of her lover's hand. I don't know, we don't know what tomorrow will bring. Anything can happen in battle, my love. I want, Akari blushed a fiery red. Naru lifted the princess's chin and placed a tender kiss on her lips. What do you want, my love? I will give you anything within my power. Akari leaned forward and crashed her lips into Naru's. I want you in me. I want to give every bit of myself to you. I want you to take strength from my love to help you in the fights to come. Naru smiled softly at her and pecked her on the lips. If that is what you want, then I give it to you freely. Naru removed his wool traveling cloak and slid closer to Akari. He kissed her passionately as he undid her traveling cloak and helped her remove her blouse. He guided her down gently until her back was laying on the rug and she was locked in a passionate kiss. The hero broke the kiss after a minute and removed his own shirt to expose an extremely toned chest and abdomen. The princess' hands raked down his chest and explored the godly body of her hero. Naru lowers back into a kiss and lets his hand explore the womanly peak of her left breast. The princess moans loudly into the kiss and sounds of passion echo across the room. Scene cut. The next scene has Akari and Naru naked on the bed. It is the moment before the hero claims his woman and Akari is still back down on the bare rug. The two locked eyes in a loving fashion and Akari nods her head weakly. Naru plunges his hips forward and the princess gasped in pleasure and pain. For the first time in her life, she was one with a man. She was one with her man. After a moment, Naru begins thrusting animatedly and the camera captures the intimate act. Flashes of flesh, hands running up toned legs and cupping butt cheeks. A mouth encasing a nipple and the tender moans of the princess echo across the minds of the audience, which caused every woman watching to moan with jealousy and pinch their legs together to calm their rising ecstasy. The love scene played out for 5 minutes and during that time, Akari was seen on film having genuine orgasms. End cut. Claude shouted as he believed he had enough to choose from. Claude stood, adjusted his erection in his pants and continued. We will now move to the cuddling scene. Please get the princess her nightgown. As the attendants scrambled to do that, Naruto donned some briefs and walked over to his girls. He tried to give Temari a kiss, but she stopped him with 3 fingers and a sassy look. I don't think so, my love. I don't mind following up on one of my sister wives, but you will need to brush your teeth before I kiss you again. She said in a mock and sassy fashion. Ino grabbed Naruto's head and pulled him into a passionate kiss. Once the kiss was broken, she whispered, now that you got me all revved up, you owe me, mister. Samui pulled his head to her and placed a chaste kiss on his lips. I agree with Ino. You owe me, mister. That scene was super cool, and it got me all tingly. Temari scoffed, you two are okay with him making another woman cum. Ino shrugged, it's the Ruto effect. How many times did he make you cum before you even did it with him? Temari blushed furiously and averted her eyes, plenty. Ino snapped her fingers, my point exactly. We gave him permission to do this, so we have no reason to be mad at him. We get him for the rest of our lives, so no biggie. Samui blushed at her thoughts of her times with Naruto. Yeah, the rest of our lives. So, the princess isn't joining the club. Naruto formed an X with his arms. No, no, no. I am not risking Camy's wrath again. Up in Camy's realm, the goddess had watched the love scene with pursed lips and clamped fists. She had a lot of time to think about what she had been feeling and she was shocked to realize it was jealousy. She had initiated talks with some of the female goddesses that she trusted, but she had yet to resolve her feelings or know what to do. Amaterasu told her to just go for it. The Shinigami, yes, the Shinigami is a woman, told her to take a mortal form and take a vacation. Izanami told her that humans, even an especially pure human, would never be worthy of her. All in all, Camy's thoughts were a mess. That being said, Camy watched the scene and couldn't suppress the fits of jealousy and longing that she felt. The skies of her realm were painted with a lightning storm that was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Black lightning flashing across clear and golden skies was a truly unique scene for the souls residing in Camy's realm. When the scene ended, she felt a warmth in her goddesshood and she shifted in her seat to clamp her legs together. Finally, when she heard Naruto's answer, a small smile graced her face. She had refrained from joining the public watch party and she had watched this scene in her private office. She wouldn't be able to deal with Minato and Kushina's open thoughts for a while. She continued to idly watch the television as she returned to her work and began forming a plan. She would no longer deny herself. She would find a way around the rules she set, and she would join the man she loved in mortality. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and I'll catch you in the next part.